Podcast City Network.
Hey guys, this is Chris with Podcast City Network's first sportscast, Final Score, and we are here for another exciting episode. Joining me, just to the side of me, is none other than Craig. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. And that's the big thing, is today is St. Patrick's Day, at least as of this recording. By the time you hear this, you'll probably just be recovering from any type of hangover or ill effects of St. Patrick's Day, but at least we can help you ring in the next day.
Yeah, and in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we are going to be celebrating a brewski.
That's right.
During the show.
Some nice Stella Artois Cidres.
I don't really drink this stuff, but just because you brought it, I'm going to drink it.
Well, you can't turn down free beer. So at the end of the day, though, you need to make sure that you go and follow us on all of our social media outlets. We are on Twitter at PCN Final Score, on Facebook at /PCN Final Score, and now you can find us on Podbean.
Yeah, super exciting.
Super exciting. If you missed that announcement, make sure you go over to our social media, hit like, hit follow, and get caught up on the news that you can now download all episodes of Final Score on Podbean. Just go on and search keyword Final Score, and you'll find all of our great episodes there. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, it's a really cool avenue that we can travel down finally, and we've been kind of anticipating this move for a couple weeks now. And it's always good to see it come to fruition. And I've had people hit me up and ask me, "Hey, how can I download? Where can I go?"
There you go.
So it's really awesome. So we encourage it. Definitely, you can take it wherever you go. You can download it, take it with you wherever you want to go.
Yeah, all you got to do is go on to either the Google Play Store or onto the Apple Store and download the Podbean app. Go look for Final Score and just download right onto your mobile device, tablet, phone, doesn't matter. And give us a listen, because we got a lot of great stuff. And I tell you what, we have a lot to talk about tonight.
We have a lot. A lot has happened since our last episode, which we already knew the free agent frenzy in the NFL would be one thing. But it's also Selection Sunday.
That's right. It is Selection Sunday that falls conveniently on St. Patrick's Day. We now have all of the conference tournaments are wrapped up as of now. And
the tournament bracket just got released not too long ago. So
that's right. It just got released. So we're definitely going to take a look at that as well today. And we got a lot to talk about when it comes to NCAA basketball. Where do we start with this?
Well, the first thing we got to start, we're obviously going to talk about the tournament and everything that happened, but Zion Williamson made his triumphant return for the Duke Blue Devils in the ACC tournament this past week, and he did not disappoint.
He definitely did not. And, this is after, Nike had approached him about, what do you need? How can we make sure your shoe doesn't blow out again?
Which I'm pretty sure violates some kind of NCAA, gift.
Well, I mean, Duke does have a contract with Nike, so maybe it was done in those interests for player protection and safety.
Maybe.
So, I'm sure they found some kind of loophole.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that the NCAA let this go, and they had their own Nike reps that were out there basically waiting on him hand and foot, like, hey, how do you want this shoe to be made? But if anybody else accepts anything whatsoever, they slap harsh penalties on a school for it.
Oh yeah, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But that kind of starts going over into the
that's
the O'Brien case and all that.
Yeah, so, that's a little rabbit hole we don't really want to go down.
I don't know, maybe sometime in the future. But all I know is that it took away my NCAA college football game. But whatever, we'll get past that. But he did return against Syracuse in the ACC tournament, and conference tournament, I should say, and went 13 for 13. Absolutely killed it, which tied an ACC record, single game record. He also had made so many shots in a row. I think the only thing he missed was a couple free throws in that entire game, and he looked on.
Yeah, the only thing that struggled in his game then was his free throw shooting. He shot 2 for 9 from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. That's the only part of his game that's really struggled, but he was less than 70% throughout the rest of the season anyway, coming in. So that was, other than that, that team looks so much different with him there.
Oh yeah, well the big thing you got to look at, especially defensively, is that when you have Zion plugging up the middle in the paint, who's going to get by him? Zion's going to go up and block anything. He's fast in the paint. He's able to get to defenders quickly, able to muddle up passing lanes. The guy is just lightning.
Yeah, even as you said, him muddling up the paint and everything like that. But even that first game back, he was jumping into passing lanes. He was overdoing it, but he was playing so aggressively that it was infectious by the rest of the team.
Oh yes,
and with him there, you could tell they are a completely different team defensively.
Oh, absolutely.
They can gamble more because Zion's gonna get their back and block anything that is near the rim. And he's also a big body guy. He's a shot changer. He's
most
a shot
definitely.
changer.
Most definitely, it's what he does. And I was actually listening to a couple sports podcasts here and there, and I kind of tuned in over to Mike Golick and his show, and they were talking about the fact that with Zion, when you have him out there, that his ability to be able to react to other players on the court is just extraordinary. They haven't been able to see a talent do it as well in decades. And you have a guy like that on your team, he's a game changer. You take him out, that's a whole it's almost like taking out an entire person.
Yeah. I mean, literally it is.
Literally it is.
Literally
But
it is.
I mean, it's just you take away an entire aspect of what Duke basketball is right now.
And Coach K even... He didn't necessarily admit it, but you could tell in his press conferences and some of the games that they struggled with without Zion there, he wasn't trying to change anything because he knew Zion was going to be back. Zion was itching to come back.
Well, that you don't want to kind of throw your team under the bus at all or anything and be like, well, we're going to do what we can, and when Zion gets back, we'll start winning again.
Well, no, but sometimes what happens when your star player goes down like that and you don't know how long he's going to be out, you have to change. Other players have to step up. You have to change your whole philosophy offensively and defensively. Maybe not completely, but you have to change it. They didn't change anything because but that's kind of what I'm getting at is other players like RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, he didn't tell them to, start trying to take over games more, because if you tell them to do that and they do it for, 3, 4, 5 games, over the course of a month, they get in the habit of, okay, now I'm the guy like that. Right. They get in the habit of that. So he basically kept things on par how they normally do it because they knew they were going to struggle with Zion out, and they were basically just waiting for him to come back because the kind of an impact that he has when he's on the court.
That, and with how well Duke had already played up to this point anyways, they were able to afford themselves that kind of leeway and not have to really worry, I feel like, either, because they knew they were going to have him back by the NCAA conference tournament. So as long as you have him for that tournament and going forward, they were going to be fine either way. Yeah,
he even said in the post-game interviews after the game against Syracuse that they asked him how his knee was feeling and is he 100%. He said he was 110%. He wanted to come back 3 games ago, but Duke's staff wanted to make sure that he was absolutely comfortable, absolutely healthy before they brought him back. So kudos to them for making sure that he was absolutely healthy and not trying to push him out there like some other programs and just teams do, because that's their guy, and they want to, they want to be in the spotlight. They want to make sure that they can still keep their spotlight and things like that. Because
most definitely.
But most teams aren't set up the way Duke is set up this year. When you've got 4 future NBA players, first round pick players on your team,
and that's the thing you have to look at is that most teams can't afford to take a hit like this. And Duke is able always to bring in really great talent, top tier talent from the high school ranks. So when you look at Duke, they're able to keep doing what they do just because with how Coach K approaches the program, with how he approaches his players, it's kind of a next man up mentality. It's like, listen, I have coached the best, coached Team USA, I've been here with Duke. I feel that Coach K, obviously you're going to feel it when you don't have Zion on the court.
Yeah.
But with, like you said, you have that much talent and guys are going to be first-round NBA draft guys. You can afford to take that kind of step. But I am also glad that they took that just because I feel like player safety is a very important thing. You know, when I was playing sports heavily 20 years ago, it was not quite that way. They were just starting to breach into a lot of this and starting to figure out, hey, if you practice on the football field for too long, you might get heat stroke. So, you know, it's changed and evolved a lot over the last 20 or so years. So I'm really glad they did hold him out extra, you know, and put to the side the fact that, hey, we know you want to play. We know you want to be the best, and we know you want to prove yourself.
Right.
But there's no reason to hurt yourself and possibly end anything you might have going for yourself just by trying to be out there.
I love how they said they had him on a pitch count, basically, for basketball. They'd give him spells here and there. He still played 35 minutes in his first game back, and in the 3 games of the ACC tournament, he averaged 37 minutes a game. He was there basically the whole game.
Oh, no. Remember, this isn't pinch count. This is load management.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. It's called load management nowadays. Yeah, it's called load management. But, I mean, he looked from watching that game, and I had an opportunity to watch the game against UNC as well. Right. He looked like he hasn't missed a step. He came back. He played amazing on both ends of the court, as we all expect.
Oh yeah,
but he shot over 75% from the field. He went 50% from 3. He only shot 3. He only made 3 of 6, but that's kind of the game. You don't expect him to shoot a lot. He's going to be driving to the hoop, you know, things like that. He averaged 10 rebounds a game. He had averaged over an assist, over a block, 2 steals a game, and he came back 27 points a game like it's nothing.
Oh, my goodness. And that's what I'm saying. The dude is a freak, and that's why he absolutely will be in the NBA come next season.
Oh, he's definitely – and he's going to be the number 1 pick no matter who has it.
Oh, yes.
The only
Magic?
thing – the Magic, maybe. They tweaked the lottery system so it's not weighted so heavily towards the top 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, because I think it's been the past 3 to 5 seasons with the draft, the Magic have been so close to being able to get that number 1, and we always end up like number 3. Number 4, number 6.
It's okay. They screw up those picks anyway.
We always do. We screw up everything. We can't even get the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, I can't even do that right. But can't even do that right. They can't even tank right.
Can't even tank right.
But yeah, the free throw line is the only thing he's really going to have to. He's going to have to shore up and get better at, and he will as he gets older and gets. To actually do this every single day now.
Oh yeah,
in the NBA. But the other 2 games he had, like I said, he struggled 2 for 9 from the line against Syracuse, but he went 3 for 3 from the line against UNC, and then 7 of 10 against Florida State. So he had got better the more he kept playing, as you would expect. But they look like no one's going to beat them. I don't see anybody in this field, and we're going to talk about our preview for each of the regions next. Mm-hmm. But I don't see anybody beating them.
I really don't either. Duke has been a complete team, and then when you add Zion into the mix, you really kind of sit here and scratch your head looking at the bracket. Who's really going to win this? Yeah,
it's really interesting because the only thing about Duke is that with Zion on the court, they play defense very aggressively, but the one area that they really struggle in is 3-point shooting.
Oh, most definitely.
They are very streaky. They're not solid 3-point shooters. They only have a couple of guys on their roster that are legitimate knockdown 3-point shooters most of the time. But even guys like Trey Jones, he's not really much of a 3-point shooter, but he took a few, in my opinion, too many threes over the ACC tournament. But, you got to take your shots if they're there. But that's the only part of their game I feel like they're really lacking in is they need to improve on their 3-point shooting. But I don't think it's going to matter that much.
Well, that's the thing I look at is if that's the only thing you can really nitpick about is like, yeah, they don't have the greatest 3-point shooting, but, they're pretty much great everywhere else. Like, what are you really going to do with that? Like, Duke is going to make this run. I think they're going to run it all the way until they win this entire thing.
I think they're my pick to win the whole tournament. Just because they're
too loaded.
They're too good. There's too much talent, especially with Zion there and he's healthy. I don't see anybody beating them.
I don't either, but there is one other thing that we do need to notate. Actually, we just have some breaking news just happened just now.
Yeah.
Off to the side, we have a bunch of sports going on all around us because that's how we do things here at Final Score. We stay constantly jacked in, just like an IV drip. But we currently have up the AAF matchup between the San Diego Fleet and the Birmingham Iron, and the Birmingham Iron just hit a walk-off field goal. Steve Novak to win the game.
Ex-NFL kicker.
32-29. And on the road, if I'm not mistaken, that's San Diego.
It's in San Diego.
So that is a stunning win, especially considering what happened with the Apollos, which we'll definitely touch more on that later. But definitely some good stuff right there. Nice, shocking win there at the end.
Yeah, a little breaking news for you.
Breaking news, even though by the time you read or hear this, I should say,
it won't be breaking
anymore.
Yeah, it won't matter.
But one thing that I think was heartbreaking, to say the least, was a little no-call action that happened during the Florida Gators Auburn Tigers game during the SEC Conference Championship Tournament. And what are your thoughts on this? Did you actually see the footage?
I watched the game. You call it a no-call. I call it poor shot selection.
Well, I think it's both, really. It was extremely poor shot selection, but when you have three guys draped all over you as a shooter who are knocking you in the arms, smacking the ball out of your hands while you're trying to go for a shot, and making clear physical contact.
Did you watch the same clip I did?
I don't know. Did you?
Apparently not.
Apparently not,
because Florida, they played very well in the SEC tournament. Beating LSU, which essentially got them into the tournament.
Which I did watch that one, and that one was a classic.
We were texting during that game.
Yeah, we were.
We were talking about this game. We were watching it, but this game against Auburn comes down. He crosses just over half court. He's probably about NBA range from the basket, and instead of passing it off because he's triple teamed, mind you. There's somebody else open if you're triple teamed. Just saying.
Typically.
So he forces up this bad shot. He's got three guys around him, and it's the end of the game. The referees are not going to be the ones to dictate the game in that scenario. As players, they basically let you play. If you're going to jack up that kind of a shot, go ahead. That's your shot. Like, they're not going to call that. Even coaching, refereeing, myself, playing, they're never going to call that ever in your lifetime, unless a guy gets his arm ripped down, his shooting arm ripped down in the shooting motion, which didn't happen. If I'm the coach of Florida, I'm not pissed about the referee not calling it. I'm more upset at the player for dribbling into triple coverage, not finding someone else to shoot the shot. Because clearly Auburn knew that was coming. They knew that guy was going to be the one to shoot it, which is why you triple team him. More
than likely. But here's the thing I look at is that if you want to blame the player, I can maybe see it from your perspective a little bit, but I want to take it a little bit higher. Why not blame the coaches for drawing up a better play to try and get it to your score instead of just, let him go ahead and advance it past half court, let him try and put up this shot in triple coverage, like you said. The biggest thing I look at with the player and the reason why he took that shot when he did is there's no time left. You got to get that shot off as quick as you can, and I feel like there was too slow of a setup to get to that point.
I agree, because you had to go full court in this case. And they only had, I think, like 3 or 4 seconds to do it, which is nothing. That's no time whatsoever. Unless you throw a baseball pass over half court, which you are most likely to get it tipped, get it intercepted, and then the game's over anyway.
True.
So they probably wanted to get it into his hands. So that way there's no doubt whether it would be potentially get into his hands. Maybe they overplay him so they deny him the ball. But that was the guy that they wanted to go with for the last shot. Potentially, at least that's the way it seemed.
Yeah, but I still feel like there's a better way you could have set that up. Because think about it. You have one guy at least come up quarter court, right there, get the inbounds, take it, have your main shooter, whoever you want to have that ball, already past half court, ready to receive that ball. Now, will there be a defender there, will there not? I'm sure maybe there probably will be, but you need to work it and get a shot off. So why not work that a little bit better to try and use it to your advantage to get a more clear shot off than having, like you said, your main shooter advancing it past half court and into triple coverage with no type of shot or time to pass the ball to a more open shooter.
That's kind of what's been going on with Florida all year.
That's true.
I think they finished like 19-10, something like that. And so they've been very up and down all year. It was a great run for him. I would never expect them to win the SEC tournament anyway. They would have run into a buzzsaw of Tennessee.
Yeah, this isn't 2006, 2008 anymore.
Right, and Joakim Noah is not walking through that door.
Yes, that's right. Neither was the old head coach. What was it Billy Donovan?
Billy Donovan.
So,
I forget. I was about to look at you and go, how do you not know that? But I forget you're not a Florida fan.
No, I'm not. I'm a disgruntled, disappointed Magic fan who Billy Donovan said he was going to leave the Gators to go coach, and then decided, no, I'm going to stay in college, and then he ended up leaving to go to coach Oklahoma City anyway. So
because he knew Orlando was not a good situation to coach. They're not trying to win ever. Oklahoma State or Oklahoma City.
Hey, we have a 13-year plan, sir. Thank you.
And it resets every year.
Every other year.
Every other year. My bad.
Because no, I guess it is every year because we always get a good player and then just trade them away anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But so Florida had a really good run. They ended up making the tournament. I believe they're an 11 seed this year, or a 10 seed. My bad. They're a 10 seed in the West, which will be really interesting because they could potentially play Michigan. But
potentially, again, but that bracket.
But
oh man.
But yeah, so. The good run by them to get into the tournament. But yeah, the SEC tournament they had a really good slate of games. Even today, Auburn took it to Tennessee pretty bad. But but that game, even until the late stages of the game, was a very good, very well competing game.
Most definitely. But the big thing is that what does all this lead to?
All this leads to the best 2 weeks of every year, my favorite time of the year.
Oh man,
the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
That's right. We call it good old March Madness.
They shortened it up. Now it's literally called the March Madness Tournament.
It's getting lazy, just like the NFL with their legal tampering period. But you know what? There is going to be a lot going on with this tournament, and it's going to be amazing. But what do we have to look forward when it comes to these 4 different regions?
So we're gonna look at each of the regions individually. We'll show you the whole bracket, so that way you can see if you are, of course, watching on YouTube or any of our other video feed
outlets. Including podcastcity.net /FinalScore.
Very true.
Little plug there.
But we're gonna start with the East. Let's start with the Eastern region. Up there, the top 4 seeds. You got Duke, Michigan State, LSU, and Virginia Tech. Really interesting the fact that Michigan State was selected as a 2 seed. I thought they could have potentially been a 1 seed because they played Michigan in the Big Ten Championship earlier Sunday afternoon and beat Michigan for the 3rd time this year. I thought that maybe would have pushed them into a 1 seed range just because of where Michigan's usually been looked at this year as well.
But ACC life, bro.
But no, even worse is that they got stuck. Not only did they get a 2 seed is fine.
Right.
But not only did they get a 2 seed, they got stuck in the worst bracket as a 2 seed.
Oh, most definitely.
You could potentially see Duke. But I mean, there's even some other teams that could potentially cause some problems for people. Louisville's been playing well. They're a 7 seed there. LSU is hot and cold. They play somewhat well.
Right.
Maryland the same way. Virginia Tech's a tough team.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this team outside of Michigan State and Duke is not super strong. So I think the most intriguing matchup of this bracket is a potential Duke versus Michigan State matchup in the Elite Eight. The regional final would be extremely intriguing, and it would be great ratings.
I think it definitely would be, considering what Michigan State's been able already to pull off this season. Of course, Zion. So I definitely think that could be a very, very intriguing matchup. But the big thing people like to look at, though, is the upsets. Who could be upset out of this region?
So I'm putting every region, we're putting people on upset alert.
Oh, yeah.
And I am putting, in the East region, I'm putting 2 teams on upset alert. Not 1, 2.
Oh, that's right. Not 1, 2.
Not 1, 2. One of them is contingent upon who they actually play, though. So the first one is LSU. They're the 3 seed in the East, and they're playing against Yale, who's the 14 seed in the East. I'm putting LSU on upset alert for this game because I watched a couple of their games. Lately, they have not been playing very well.
Yeah.
They've been tending to go into some spells where they're not moving the ball around. Naz Reid, who is their star freshman power forward,
right?
He's been battling some leg and foot issues over the last few weeks, and he basically disappeared for portions of the game against Florida. So you don't want to sleep on a team like Yale, who Yale, I believe, has 28 wins coming this year. I think they're 28-7 coming in. They've played against some pretty good non-conference teams early in the year. And it always seems like there's one team that comes from a smaller school or a smaller conference that you got to watch out for. I think this is going to be the matchup you got to watch out for if you're LSU. The other one that I have on upset alert is Maryland.
Maryland.
6-seeded Maryland. So they are actually playing the winner of a play-in game, Belmont versus Temple. Now, the only reason I said this is contingent, if Belmont wins this game, they're beating Maryland.
You heard it here first.
If Belmont beats Temple, I think they're going to beat Maryland. Then that would set up a really interesting matchup between Belmont and Yale to go to the Sweet 16, in which Belmont would win and go to the Sweet 16.
So Yale can upset LSU, but can't upset Belmont?
Belmont's too good. I don't know how. I really don't know how they got an 11 seed here. I could have seen like a play-in game 11 seed put at that. I could have seen them maybe being a flat 11 seed, maybe taking the place of, well, the other 11 seed is another play-in game. Ohio State, they have no business being in the tournament anyway. And St. Mary's, who took the bid from the West Coast Conference because they beat Gonzaga in their conference tournament, they stole a bid right there. So that if you're Belmont, you can probably blame St. Mary's for beating Gonzaga for taking your non-play-in game. But Belmont's a really good team. They're always a very good shooting team, and Maryland just struggles. I've watched a little bit of them in the Big Ten. They have games where they look really good, and they have games where they just don't show up. So watch out. If Belmont wins, they're going to beat Maryland, potentially get into the Sweet 16 to play against Michigan State. Then Michigan State will probably take care of them handily.
But let's be realistic, though. Who's really going to take the East region?
The East region, it's Duke. There's no...
Yeah, all this doesn't even matter at the end of the day because we all know that the Zion train will keep a rolling all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah, the Duke train's going to continue to roll. They're going to take they're going to represent the East in Minneapolis this year for the Final Four.
And it's going to be crazy. But we're going to go ahead and shift gears and take a look over on the other side to the West region.
The West region. So Gonzaga takes the top seed here. Gonzaga, Michigan, Texas Tech, and Florida State take the top 4 seeds. Gonzaga, I've been hating on them all year because they don't play anybody. They did beat Duke in the second game of the year. I know. I've had people tell me that. I understand.
That was a long time ago.
It was the second game of the year. All those freshmen for Duke had still learning how to play with each other. Gonzaga's got a squad of guys that have played with each other for a year or two. But Gonzaga, every single year, they, for good reason, refuse to move up to a bigger conference. That's a whole completely different argument that I understand why they don't do it. And I would actually argue with them why they should not do it.
Right.
But that's another rabbit hole we don't want to get down.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
But Gonzaga is always on upset alert every single year until they prove it. And they did make the Final Four a couple years ago. But this year I don't think they're as strong as they were when they made the Final Four the last time. So I think they're a little over it. That's probably the weakest bracket of all of them is the West region. But there are a few intriguing matchups in that region.
Okay.
The first one I want to look at is the 5-12 matchup here.
Oh, snap.
Marquette versus Murray State. The reason I point this out, if you've followed college basketball at all this year, you would know exactly where I'm going with this. Marquette they have a guard, Howard, I believe it's Marcus Howard.
Right.
He's 5'10", 5'11" guard. This dude is one of the highest scoring players in the country. He averages almost 30 points a game. This dude is nuts. He can shoot from almost anywhere on the court. He is the engine that runs this team, and he's kind of a volume shooter, but they're matched up against Murray State, who has Ja Morant, who is going to be a potentially top 3 pick in the NBA draft this year. Definitely top 5. He is the engine that runs that team. So I think that game right there is going to be
the battle of engines.
That is going to be the big game to watch in this region, let alone the whole tournament. Potentially this matchup in the first round, I think that's going to be super exciting. It's an afternoon game on Thursday, so I'm going to have to try to find a way to watch this game hopefully I'm not working.
Hopefully.
So I can actually watch this game. That'd be great. The other matchup I have that's an intriguing matchup is a potential one. Gonzaga versus Syracuse. So, of course, this involves both Gonzaga and Syracuse winning their first-round matchups. But the potential is here. Not only is this an intriguing matchup, this is my upset alert.
Heard it here first.
This is my upset alert for the West region. Gonzaga, if they make it to play Syracuse, Syracuse has they have the right makeup. And it doesn't hurt the fact that they play a 2-3 zone, which nobody plays anymore.
No.
Nobody's played for the last 15 years. More than that, probably. But I think they would disrupt Gonzaga enough to make it a very close game, like they've done against Duke and other teams in the ACC. I put Gonzaga on upset alert because of that game right there. I don't think they make it out of that game. I think Syracuse could upset them. And if Gonzaga does make it out of there and they have to play Florida State would beat them. I don't think they're going to beat Florida State if both of them make it that far. Florida State, they come at you in waves. Coach Hamilton has done a great job there of recruiting guys. Like he recruits long, athletic players that can play defense and rebound. If they can get their offense playing the way it has been for the last couple weeks, then I think they can do a lot of damage in the tournament. But I definitely think Gonzaga's on upset alert in this region.
But coming out though, who ends up winning the entire West region?
So you're gonna think this
I'm gonna throw bias at you and say
I know you're gonna think this is bias, but I'll explain why it's not. Michigan being the 2 seed in this region, I think they have the easiest path to make it to a Final Four. So I have them making it into represent the West region in the Final Four.
Oh, my leprechaun heart just can't take it.
But if you look at how their bracket breaks down, they play against the 15th seed Montana. Michigan plays really solid defense. They're going to stop people. The problem is, can they score? Offense has always been an issue for them this whole year. Even today, watching against Michigan State in the Big Ten championship, a lot of times this offense disappeared. For John Beilein being known for his motion offense and his creativity, he's recruited guys that just stand there and they don't do anything. Iggy Brazdeikis and Jordan Poole and those guys, they were standing around just jacking up threes the whole time. Not the whole time, but for stretches they would just disappear. If Xavier Simpson's not on the floor to push them in the right direction, this team's going to struggle. And if they're not knocking down shots, this is really going to struggle for them. So this is contingent upon their offense. But if they can put a couple of games togetay, play offense at a mediocre level, I think mediocre
is all you need.
And that's all they need. Like tonight or today, the Big Ten championship, their offense was atrocious. It was bad. It was terrible. I don't know how they were still in that game. They played hard, and that's probably what kept them in. But their offense, their shot selection was awful. If they can improve their shot selection, I think they make the Final Four, because they would have to go through Montana, either Florida or Nevada, and then the Sweet 16, either Texas Tech or Buffalo, most likely. And then either Gonzaga, Florida State, one of those teams in the Elite Eight. Other than Florida State and Gonzaga, I don't see another team that can beat Michigan if they're playing well on offense.
Well, I can't believe I'm even gonna have these dirty.
Does this hurt?
Just straight vinegar tasting words fall out of my mouth. But you better mark this on the calendar, because this might be one of the only times I ever say this.
Uh-oh.
I believe the Michigan Wolverines can actually win the West. God, it tastes bad. But they will have to make it through. I don't think Syracuse will be there. I don't think Gonzaga will be there. I think it'll be Florida State. And I think Florida State's going to be the team that could really give Michigan a run for their money, just because of the fact that Florida State, like you said, Michigan has times where they offensively kind of just shut down.
Yep.
So if Florida State can capitalize on that, and on top of that, force some errors, you never know. But I still feel that defensively,
both of those teams are very solid defensively.
Very solid defensively, but I think Michigan might just be better in that category. And I think that is what will push them forward. God, all that hurt to say.
If we see that game, don't be surprised if that game's in the 50s.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, and it'd be only separated by like 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, it would be in the 50s. It'd be coming down to the last minute, maybe in the 60s. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best option, is Florida State versus Michigan in the Elite Eight for the West Regional Final.
But you know what? To get some of that taste out of my mouth, we definitely got to go to another region. So let's go ahead. We're going to take a peek over to the South region.
You didn't like it too much.
I didn't. And the Maize and Blue, it just doesn't roll off the tongue well. So with the South region, though, there's a lot of good teams in this region that do have the potential possibly to make some noise. But what do we have going on in this region?
So in the South region, the top 4 seeds, Virginia, Tennessee, Purdue, and Kansas State. That's your 1 through 4. This has a couple of really intriguing matchups to look at. 5-12, the Wisconsin-Oregon matchup I have there. Wisconsin, like most of the other Big Ten schools, play decent. They play pretty good defense, but offense disappears. Wisconsin is no different. They seem to do it every year. They keep the game down in the 50s and the 60s, and they usually try to just win their game on sheer just defensive effort.
Mm-hmm. But you're going up against an Oregon team that
Oregon's been super hot.
Super hot. And it's been crazy, just especially what they did in the Pac-12 championship or the conference championship tournament. I think Oregon could honestly make some noise against Wisconsin.
I agree. I think they upset Wisconsin. They've been playing extremely well. Had a chance to watch one of their games in the Pac-12 tournament a couple nights ago, and they played very, very well. Friday night, actually, I got a chance to watch against Arizona State, who's another team that made it into the tournament. Mm-hmm. But they've been playing extremely well. They had to recover from their star player, Ball.
Heck of a name.
Yeah. So do you know who that is?
Vaguely.
So do you remember back in the 80s, there was a player that was from Africa called Manute Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Still just really tall, skinny dude.
Yeah, real tall, real lanky.
That's his son.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's his son. So his son plays at Oregon, and he got hurt earlier this year. They've been really trying to find their identity and struggle, but Coach Altman is going to have them ready to go, and they've been playing so well over the last week.
Most definitely.
They usually, teams like that, they roll, and they can win a game in the tournament. So that game, I think that game is an upset alert there with Wisconsin. UC Irvine, the matchup against Kansas State, the 4-13 matchup. UC Irvine plays really well too. They have 30 wins on the year. Most of them are against like lower quadrant, lower tiered competition, but they move the ball really well. They play good defense. They're athletic enough, and they could potentially disrupt Kansas State and potentially make an upset. The real intriguing matchup to watch out for would be anybody against Virginia.
Especially considering how last year's tournament went.
Yeah. So I watched their game. I think it was the game against Florida State in the ACC tournament. Didn't they played? And upset alert if you are Virginia or a Virginia fan. They play great defense, but good God, can they not have offense?
I think I saw a video. It was about a week or so ago of them just trying to do layups. It was atrocious. I mean, utterly atrocious. And that's the thing with Virginia. Like you said, defensively, great. Offensively,
they're amazing defensively.
Yeah, well, I think that's the only reason they've been able to get in the position they have is because they play such great, solid defense. They're able to box out well, whole line. But when you try to put a ball in their hand and try to say, hey, put this ball in that basket, it doesn't work out that well.
Yeah, they have a couple players that can play. I mean, they can play offense, but just the offense that they run,
doesn't work.
They play like a San Antonio Spurs or like, remember the 04 Detroit Pistons?
Oh, yeah.
With Larry Brown, and they would keep people in the 60s.
I remember that.
That's the kind of offense they run. They run a very slow, methodical offense, and that's okay until you run into a team in the tournament where you have little to no prep, and you're basically going on just you gotta heat check somebody, and that's what happened to them last year. Is they lost to UMBC in the first round because they had a player, their senior star player got hot and took over the game. So I don't know if Gardner Webb can do that.
I don't think Gardner Webb will be the team, but
that
going
8-9
forward,
matchup, that Ole Miss and Oklahoma, the winner of that game, they could potentially upset Virginia and prevent them from making the Sweet 16.
Well, even if they didn't, you're still going to end up having to look at the winner of possibly Wisconsin-Oregon, who's going to face the winner of Kansas State and UC Irvine. So I feel any of those four teams could have a decent shot against beating Virginia.
Anybody.
I feel like Virginia realistically I would say this, is not going to make the Elite Eight.
I definitely say they're not going to make the Final Four. Yeah, there's a very good chance they may not make the Elite Eight either. Because looking at the bottom half of that bracket, Tennessee's down there, Villanova, St. Mary's, Purdue, Cincinnati's been playing pretty well.
And of course you can't forget Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee, other than this game, the SEC championship game, they just played today on Sunday against Auburn. I don't know why I was forgetting that. I watched the game, but it's
that St. Patty's Day catching up with you.
Yeah, it's already catching up to me. I mean, I'm like half a beer in, it's already like terrible.
They need to catch up. I think I'm a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, well, you had a little bit more than I did already before we even started.
Yeah, I think I'm on 3. I don't know. Sorry, lost count.
You lost count already?
Well, when you get into sports, I get excited and then I forget other things. And
like to drink water.
Water? What's that?
What is that? But Tennessee, other than their game against Auburn today, they've been playing very well. They were number one for a few weeks in a row for a stretch of the season. So that is my pick to come out of that bracket would be Tennessee. Tennessee's going to, I think, win that region, and then they'll match up with the winner in the Midwest region.
Which, speaking of the Midwest, we're going to go ahead and change gears yet again. A team that I feel should have been number one, ended up being number one, but let's take a look at this Midwest region.
Yeah, the top 4 seeds here, you got North Carolina, Kentucky, Houston, and Kansas are the top 4 seeds in the Midwest region. The most intriguing matchup for me in this region is the inevitable Elite Eight matchup, North Carolina versus Kentucky. They're going to bill it as the Battle of the Blue Bloods.
Oh, of course.
This game is the one game that I'd really be looking forward to out of this whole bracket. Other than the Marquette, Murray State, or a potential Duke, Michigan State game, North Carolina, Kentucky is going to be hands down, I think, one of the more exciting games if we get to that point.
Well, most definitely. You're looking at two traditional college basketball powerhouses who have had a lot of great players come through their halls. So to be able to see that match will be great, because when you're looking at the Midwest region on its own, Iona obviously is not going to be North Carolina. Utah State and Washington are not going to have a chance against North Carolina, as well as Auburn, New Mexico State, Kansas, Northeastern. I don't think any of them have a chance against North Carolina. And then when you look at the other half of the Midwest, it's the same thing. Iowa State and Ohio State, Houston, Georgia State, Wofford, Seton Hall, Abilene Christian, none of them have a chance against Kentucky, in my opinion.
The one that I would combat you on this for North Carolina, Watch out for Auburn. Bruce Pearl knows he's a great coach, and he knows how to get his guys amped up for a game. And I think Auburn plays North Carolina in the Sweet 16, and I think that's going to be a really, really, really good game to watch.
Oh, my bracket's a little bit different. I actually have Auburn falling to Kansas.
Kansas is on my upset alert.
Yeah?
Yeah, Kansas is on my upset alert. So
I think they're going to pull it off, but then I think they're going to get absolutely drudged by North Carolina.
So Kansas, my roommate in Jacksonville is a big Kansas fan. So I've had a chance to watch Kansas basketball a lot over the last like 2 or 3 years, just knowing him, being friends with him, things like that. And Kansas this year is not the Kansas of old. Kansas, they've lost players because of the FBI investigation.
Oh yes,
left and right. They've lost so many big players, either to the draft or to injury. They've been so riddled with injuries. They have barely they finally lost the Big 12 conference regular season championship for the first time in 14 years.
About to say, yeah, that actually is a pretty big moment, but I still feel they have enough to do something.
They have a good amount of athleticism, but I would not be surprised. They have been struggling a lot lately, and I have them on upset alert just because I think they could potentially lose their first round matchup to Northeastern.
Woo, heard it here first.
I think they could lose their first round matchup to Northeastern. But if they do make it out of there, I think Auburn would take that game against Kansas to actually have the right to play North Carolina. So that's the only real upset alert matchup I have here. But out of this whole bracket, man, this would be tough. Down to North Carolina or Kentucky. I think North Carolina, just because they have the experience, and Kobe White, their point guard, freshman point guard, kid's a stud.
Oh, he definitely is. And that's part of the reason why, though, I also feel North Carolina is going to be able to overcome Kentucky. Because same thing you look at, too, has been great, but Kentucky isn't necessarily the old Kentucky we've always seen either. So that's the thing I look at, is that North Carolina is kind of like another Duke. Obviously, they don't have the benefit of having a Zion on their team,
right? But
they're another train that kind of just keeps plugging along, being able to replace players at a moment's notice and have great talent and put out great teams.
Yeah, they had their matchup. I watched their game, UNC versus Duke in the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That game, you want to talk about a must-watch game. If you missed that game, you missed out. That game came all the way down the wire, but even from wire to wire, from start to finish, that game had so much emotion, so much there was just so much of everything you could ask for in a college basketball game. That game had it. And I just see that North Carolina, I think they're just more experienced, and I think you could potentially see a Duke UNC final.
Ooh.
That I'm not going to say that's what my prediction is, but I'm saying it's definitely there.
And it definitely could happen, but one thing that we definitely need to see happen is paying our light bills so we can keep on doing what we do.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that. We got to keep them happy.
Yeah, we definitely do that. So you definitely give us a moment while we cut the break, but definitely stay with us, because when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about some AAF action and some interesting news that happened. But first things first, let's pay that power bill. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit facebook.com/3countdesign for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit demoblaststudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on facebook.com/demoblaststudios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score. I'm Chris, here with Craig, and we have some exciting stuff to talk about when it comes to the AAF, Alliance of American Football.
Talking about the Alliance. Hashtag
right.
join the Alliance.
That's right. Hashtag join the Alliance. And I think the biggest thing we need to notate is that there's a certain individual who will be joining the ranks of the AAF here very, very soon.
Very soon.
And that is the one and sadly only Johnny Manziel.
Money Manziel.
Money Manziel. Sorry, Money Manziel.
Johnny Money Manziel. I had a few other nicknames for him that we were talking about, but those aren't exactly family friendly.
No, I had some too, but we definitely can't put him on air, or we're going to be off air. And
we wouldn't. Yeah, we wouldn't be on air very much longer. But Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel,
man.
We had talked about this in our Give or Go segment two episodes ago.
2 episodes ago.
That was the final thing we talked about, that potentially what could happen, where could he go. So it finally happened. Johnny Manziel had gone through the protocol in which to be an Alliance player. So he had his first rights were given to San Antonio Commanders.
Yes, based upon his collegiate footprint.
Yep, based on where he played at college, which, of course, if you forget so quickly, it was Texas A&M. But so Johnny Manziel could have gone there. They declined, and they elected to pass on him.
Good idea.
And we actually retweeted out the interview from, I think, the GM of their team talking about if they would take Manziel, and it was the best, most politically correct answer ever.
It really was.
It was fantastic. But so they declined, and then he went to the waiver system, which once it goes the waiver system, it goes to the team with the worst record in the AAF.
Worst winning percentage.
Worst,
to be exact.
Okay, yep, correct. Worst winning percentage gets the rights to any player. They basically, it's like fantasy football. You got the worst team, you get the rights for the first on the waiver wire, to go pick up who you want. Which
ended up being the Memphis Express, who desperately need help at quarterback, it feels like, because you start looking at their roster of quarterbacks and you kind of wonder why are they 1-5? But
yeah, I have no idea why.
But we'll get to that more in a minute. I want to talk more about Johnny Manziel. And the thing with Johnny Football is that I just don't know if this is going to work out.
So this is his last chance. Like, literally, there's no more chances you can have. Like, this was literally created for people like him to have a chance.
It was.
Just ask Trent Richardson.
Yes, absolutely, who's still somehow getting carries.
But Trent Richardson never went through the Canada outlet. Johnny actually did. Went through Canada, played for basically what was 3/4 of a season, 2/3 of a season.
Right.
And they didn't ask him to come back.
Right. He had, I think, played for 2 teams. I know 11 games, I think, were with the Alouettes.
No, he played the first 5 games with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Oh, yes, the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
The remaining games of the season were with Montreal Alouettes.
Yes, which was horrendous all the way through, I feel like. I think it was in his very first start in the CFL, he threw 4 interceptions in the first half of the game.
Yeah, his first game was awful. Because he actually, the 5 games that he played for Hamilton, he didn't start any, and he basically came in on like gadget plays and things like that. So he didn't really play a whole lot.
Yeah.
But in the 8 games for the Alouettes, he started the first game against his old team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Oh, man.
4 picks in the first half, and he got benched at halftime.
Yeah, I think if you only throw for 104 yards and 4 picks, you're probably going to be benched at halftime, and that was just horrific to see happen.
Yeah, he got a lot better from there. So I went through his stats for Canada, and when he played in the CFL, his stats weren't terrible over the course of the rest of the season. He threw for 64% completion, which isn't, it's not terrible. He threw for almost 1,300 yards, 1,290, which was averaged out to about 161 a game. That's not good.
No, definitely
from a
not.
quarterback's perspective. 5 touchdowns, 7 picks. So the four picks after that game, though. I mean, if you look at it,
you take away those 4 picks, you're down to a 5-3 ratio.
5-3, that's not too bad.
No, that's not too bad.
So his best 2 games from a passing standpoint, he had 2 games back to back. One versus Calgary. This is like late, kind of near the end of the season. Calgary, he was 18 of 29, so he threw for 62%.
Okay.
250 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. That was his best yardage game. I think his best overall game was the next game against Toronto, 23 of 30, over 75% completion, 220, 1 TD, 1 pick.
That's definitely a lot better.
That's a lot better. But that's the kind of game you would expect out of a guy like him if he's going to try to make the NFL again. That's what you would expect every game. He only had 2 such games like that. I think he only went over 200 yards those 2 games, his whole 8 games that he played. And then from a rushing perspective, which is what you're going to expect in the AAF out of Johnny Manziel, is what he can do with his legs. His CFL career was 29 carries, 215 yards, no touchdowns, only had a longest rush of 25 yards. But in 5 of those games, he had he had at least 35 yards rushing.
Which definitely can make an impact, especially in the AAF when you look at how these offenses have been playing through these first 6 weeks, where you kind of been seeing it tip back and forth. You have some teams that really are able to rely heavily on the run, some that rely a lot more heavily on the pass, some try to be a little bit more split. So a guy with his skill set definitely could be very useful for an AAF team. Yeah,
and especially Memphis. So we joke about how they have ex-NFL players on their team.
The most German of names.
Mettenberger and Hackenberg. So Mettenberger hasn't been playing terrible since he started in place of Hackenberg. But he actually got hurt in this weekend's game. And then Brandon Silvers jumped in and played. I forget what college he went to, but I remember watching him because as soon as I saw and heard what college he went to, heard his last name, I was like, oh yeah, I watched like one of his games. Where did he go? Do you have it up there?
Oh, I'm going to find it because it's going to bother me if I do not.
Yeah, he went.
Oh, he went to Troy.
Troy. That's what it was. He's
Sun
part
Belt.
of that. Yeah, he's part of that Troy team from last year. Either last year or 2 years ago. They had a bowl game that I can't remember who they played against for the life of me. This is why you plan ahead when you do these podcasts. This is why you do your homework ahead of time.
Got to.
So you're not stuck like this guy right now. But so Mettenberger hasn't played terrible. He's only got 475 yards in a couple of games. Granted, they've only been through 6 games total. Their quarterback play from the whole way around has been awful. As a total, Mettenberger's got the best touchdown to pick ratio at 3-1, but Hackenberg 0-3, Silver's 1-1. Their whole quarterback room needs a bad upgrade.
Yeah, insert fart sound here.
Yeah, pretty much. But so it's not only this, that he could help out from an offensive perspective, but if you look at the rest of their team, they only use Zach Stacy in the run game. He has got 87 carries over 6 games. The next closest is 28. No other team in the AAF has that big of a disparity between the running backs.
And Terrence McGee only has 91 yards, so he hasn't even clipped the 100-yard mark, and that's your number 2 running back. Yeah, that's your number 2 running back. So between those two, that's not good. And we looked at we were talking about their receiving core before we went on air, and their top receiver only has 21 receptions for 316 yards, and he's only averaging 52 yards a game. Well, yeah, but the big thing I also look at when you're looking at these receivers is that your top 3 receivers all are the only ones with over 10 receptions on the season.
And one of them is your running back.
Yeah, and one of them is your running back. So this offense is in desperate need of some type of infusion of some type of power because they have nothing, it feels like, right now.
But their defense is what's kind of holding them up, and I use that term loosely.
Right.
Because they create a lot of turnovers. They're in the top half of the league in turnovers generated, but their defense from points given up, yards given up is in the bottom. It's terrible.
Yeah, and that's horrible.
But that's what Singletary wants to do, is he wants to have that ball hawk mentality for all of his defenses. But the problem is, I think a little bit of this is not just the play of the offense. I think it's Singletary. How many coaches anymore use their number one running back 90% of the time?
Very rarely. Most are using 2 to 3 running back systems.
Yeah, and so I mean, like, that already alone just kind of tells you, okay, he's only averaging 3.5 yards a carry. He doesn't even average 100 yards a game. He's not even over 300 yards, and this is up to the date of this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even over 300 yards total in 6 games rushing. That's not good.
That's not good at all. But the big thing I look at, though, is how does Johnny Manziel fit into this offense? And not only fit into this offense, but help this offense start producing some points.
He's gonna have to create with his feet how he did at Texas A&M. He's not gonna have the weapons that he had there, which is gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if he can first see the field, because it didn't sound like Singletary was going to just hand over the reins to him.
Right.
Which I don't even know if Singletary is going to be able to put up with this crap throughout the year.
I kind of predict he's going to sucker punch him.
Yeah, you did say that.
So just one good one, right in the kisser.
I don't think that'll happen, but
I like to see how the AAF would respond to that.
Yeah, they're.
Do they put
really
Mike
funny.
Singletary through like a new coaching system that helps him, with coming back and getting back in the NFL now that he's sucker punched with Johnny Manziel?
They would have to do something, because there's no way. Yeah, there's no way they would make it through the year with each other. But the only thing that Johnny Manziel actually, this benefits him.
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits him because there's not that many games left.
True, they're only going to have a 4-game slate.
Only
left.
4 games. So you got to imagine that this first week, he's supposed to be in Memphis within the next day or so.
Right, and he doesn't have to sit out any games either with this.
Correct. He doesn't have to. But I don't think he plays a whole lot in the first game.
No, I don't
if
believe
at
he will
all.
either. I think the big thing that they're going to have to do is get him adapted to whatever playbook, if any, whatever it may be.
I don't know what kind of playbook he runs up there, but
at 1-5, it's kind of hard to say. But at the end of the day, though, they're going to have to adapt it to whatever that is as quickly as possible. So I agree. I think he's only going to get limited playing time, and they are going to try and give it to Mettenberger to start with, if he's ready to go. If not, it'll go to Brandon Silvers. But I think Johnny Manziel will get some type of playing time, and I don't know if this is basically going to end up being an audition, but I have a feeling it very well could be. And if he could play good in a series or two, it could end up giving way if Mettenberger is really hurt past week 7, week 8.
that's true.
That it could lend to Johnny Manziel just being the starter out by default.
Yeah, I think if Mettenberger's hurt for an extended period of time for the rest of the regular season, definitely going to have to watch out for Johnny Manziel seeing the field earlier than we would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question for him is, okay, yeah, this is going to be his last audition on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Can he keep himself clean off the field to be successful?
And that's what I really worry about. Now, obviously, you're in Memphis. It's a little bit different than, say, being in College Station or in Cleveland or any of these other places. But the big thing I look at is that Johnny Manziel has a systematic issue with keeping his nose clean. And the thing I look at is that every time
he's using his nose, but it's not clean.
Oh, it's definitely not clean. It's as probably white as it could be. But anyways, at the end of the day, though, the thing I look at with Johnny Manziel is that every time he says he's going to be on the up and up, and he's on the straight and narrow, and he's going to get his life together, and he's going to get back to playing great football, he turns around and shoots himself directly in the foot not once, but twice, for good measure, because that's what Johnny Manziel does. He always tries to say, okay, I'm going to be good now, and I'm going to get my crap together, and then he finds a way to screw it up.
Yeah, and we were talking about he's no longer been welcomed back by the CFL. Basically what happened is they said he violated his player contract or whatever the case, but they didn't disclose why. I tried to find a little bit more information on that, and I got nothing.
It seemed like it was because of something with the trade or something like that, but I couldn't find anything that was definitive with why he wasn't allowed to come back.
Yeah, they said it was something to do with the person. Basically, what the NFL would say is the personal conduct policy.
Right.
Basically, that's what the CFL said. Like, hey, he violated something in his contract, and we're not going to let him back in the league anymore. He had to have done something.
Got his nose into something white?
I don't know. Like, what would he have done? Because if the CFL, the thing that really weirds me out about it is the CFL, they have no horse in this race. They're not trying to get Manziel back in the NFL. They just want him out of the CFL. Right. So why not disclose what the reason was?
I think maybe, and just hear me out on this one, maybe it's the CFL trying, not necessarily to save face in any kind of way, but maybe just trying to help Johnny Manziel at the end of the day. Maybe trying to throw him like a little bit of a life preserver. Like, listen, get the hell out of our league. Go play wherever. We're not going to put you on blast. Go do whatever you're going to do. Just don't return.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's a little fishy to me that they just don't say why.
Well, the thing is that no matter what it is, they had to have disclosed a certain amount of it to the AAF for them to make the decision to allow him into the league as well, because the big hang-up to start out with was some type of off-the-field issue that he was having already in Canada.
That's true. They had to have been in conversation, or the AAF probably contacted the Canadian Football League office to find out what the reason was. And apparently it wasn't enough for them to be deterred from offering him to come to the Alliance. Yeah,
and that's the big thing I look at. So obviously it might not have been that bad. Maybe it was bad enough for Canada, but I feel it's still maybe CFL just is not trying to put him on blast so he can have this type of opportunity for what the AAF actually offers. Now, who knows? We know how these things work sometimes in sports, where we might sit here a month or two now and then actually find out what it was.
Yeah, very true.
And it could change a lot of perceptions in a lot of ways. And considering, like we said, there's not a lot of the season left in the AAF, we can see any number of things happen.
Yeah, that's the great thing about sports media is eventually it comes out.
But something else that eventually finally happened.
What was that?
I think FinalScore made a little visit to Spectrum Stadium down in Orlando to see the Orlando Apollos take on the Arizona Hotshots this past weekend.
Yeah, we did. We finally had a chance to go check out a game. We've been talking about it for the whole season. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. What did you think about their setup and how everything kind of was presented?
I thought the setup was real good. They kept to try to have as much fan interaction as they could in a lot of ways. There was a little bit of weather to start off with. Didn't really get too bad. It sprinkled a little bit. I know you didn't quite get there until almost, I think, kickoff. Well, quote unquote kickoff.
Yeah.
But I had actually been there about an hour ahead of time, and there's a few things I noticed that were real nice. Had nice little presentations. A lot of little fanfare things going on.
Did you get a chance to to do the tailgate section and all that? Go through that?
I did a little bit. There actually was a good turnout. I was actually surprised. It was a good turnout. A lot of excited people. A lot of things going on. A lot of cornhole. A lot of people love their cornhole. A lot of good food. A lot of good drinks. It was a good time. A lot of people having fun. And that was the cool thing, because I've been down to Spectrum Stadium a lot of times for a lot of the UCF Knights games. Whether it been 2007 when they first opened Spectrum, when it was still Bright House Network Stadium, or even as late as last year where I went to the Cincinnati game. But obviously you're not getting the attendance that UCF would garner in their 44,000 plus seat stadium. But still, that stadium was about roughly half full, maybe a little less.
So no, I think it was a little bit more, just because if you trickled in all the people that were sitting up in the upper bowl. Mm-hmm. And you actually put everyone down in the lower bowl, that was over full.
Yeah, I think we were about 23,000, maybe a little more.
I know I know they've been trying to do a campaign to shoot for 30.
Right.
Which, I mean, I haven't seen, other than what we've been watching on the telecast, but I haven't seen much of the other attendance numbers for other. Mm-hmm. But I know Memphis only gets 10K, 11K a game, mm-hmm. which is well short of what I would say Orlando's getting.
Oh, most definitely. And Orlando, I feel like, had probably one of the strongest followings since the get-go and has been able to garner it. Obviously, when they started out 5-0 halfway through the season, definitely helps. But they've definitely been able to tap into their market, I think, better than any other team has been able to, especially when you have the old ball coach and all these Florida Gator fans running around. Yeah,
they definitely did it right to start. But, yeah, I think everything was set up really well. Mm-hmm. It's about as what you would expect from, even like from a college football stadium or anything like that. But yeah, they definitely, I know they've tried to interact and do fan interaction things like the tailgate and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was fun. I'm looking forward to going back to another game before the season's up.
I actually might try to go back too. But the one thing that I think left us all a little disappointed was the outcome. And it was a great game, very intriguing start to finish. If you caught any of my posts on Twitter on the FinalScore account, I was definitely keeping some score updates going. And it was a very close game all throughout. Arizona definitely came and played some great defense to try and match up against this explosive Apollo's offense and trying to keep Gilbert in check, trying to make sure they didn't get let up any kind of explosive big play, which is usually what Orlando has kind of fed on a little bit and been able to produce. But no real big plays, honestly, until you start getting down to the fourth quarter.
No, Arizona's pass rush, which we have been having watched a few of their games earlier this year, their pass rush is no joke for the AAF. Mm-hmm. Not quite San Antonio pass rush, but their pass rush is very good. And it seemed like every game, every play we were watching, Gilbert had legitimate NFL 3 seconds, you got to be out. Mm-hmm. 3-step drop, throw.
And we saw that come into play a lot.
It came into play a lot. I don't know what your thoughts were on it, but I think from an offense standpoint, the offense sucked.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole game until the fourth quarter. The stats don't show it because it showed they had over 300 yards of offense and 250, 260 yards of passing. But Gilbert did not look good because he didn't have a whole lot of time. There were drops left and right. I think there were probably 4 or 5 drops that I rattle off the top of my head.
Well, the big thing I looked at too is that I feel like some of the passes were a little bit misplaced. Sometimes instead of leading the receiver more properly, he tried to put it where he was rather than where he was going to be. But another thing too, and I think this is another thing I looked at. I got to the game really early, and there was some weather that had passed through the Central Florida area, and the field did get a little bit of wetness on it from some precipitation. So the big thing I look at too is that you saw a lot of routes where guys were trying to make cuts would slip and fall. You saw guys that had to run uglier routes because they couldn't quite get the feel of the turf. Little route issues with wide receivers, and then I feel like it kind of translated into Gilbert just not putting the ball on point like he normally does. And maybe that played a bigger factor, especially since the run game was pretty much stuffed all night.
Well, they still got over 100 yards total of rushing between all their running backs. So, I mean, their offense, it looked really flat until the fourth quarter, at least the mid-fourth quarter, because they didn't have a single touchdown until the fourth quarter.
Who? The Apollos? They had a touchdown first drive. Where were you at?
That's what
outside you were late to the game. You don't even know where you're at.
Outside of that one.
It's all right. But still, they didn't do anything. The rest of the
outside of that.
Yeah. They didn't do anything. They had drives that would completely stall out. They had turnovers, and this was very unlike Gilbert, where Gilbert was trying to force the ball and causing turnovers. One I saw where the pocket broke down, he started actually rolling out to his right and was trying to get the ball downfield. Defender clearly in the way and threw it right to the defender. And I think it just baffled me that Gilbert had played so lights out, was looking like the MVP of the league.
He still is.
I still think he is, but you cannot have games like this that are really going to hurt you, especially if you're trying to get back into the NFL.
So I blame myself for this because I think it was last week or the previous episode or the last 2 episodes, we were talking about how far Orlando can go. Mm-hmm. I said they were not going to be undefeated.
You did call it.
I did say that. So I blame myself that they lost this one.
It's okay. I'm going to blame you too.
Okay, yeah, you can. That's fine.
All right. So,
but I think this is a good loss for them because
I think it's learning.
Because the offense played horrible outside of the opening drive and in the mid-late fourth quarter,
right? Which
they still had a chance to win on the final drive, but they basically were still in it, and the defense played well enough. I mean, but you played like crap on offense, and you still had a chance to win. So, I mean, they're still going to be the team to beat in the Alliance for the rest of the year. But, you know, this is a game that they needed to lose. Because I'd rather have them lose now than, say, you get to the playoffs and they lose the first game.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Then they're worried about losing, like keeping the streak alive versus actually trying to go out and play.
And, you know, you're probably right to that end, because at the end of the day, why not get to game 6 of 10 and lose one that's going to be, it's a tough loss. You lose only by 5 points, but this is one they can learn from. This is one they can come back from.
Yeah.
And I think they will still.
I think they will too. Were you there for the final drive of the game?
I was.
The very last play, they had a chance. They were marching down. Clock was running. They get all the way down, knocking on the door, and then they go to spike it, and they had a false start on a spike. Mm-hmm. False start on a spike with 4 seconds to go.
With a runoff.
And there's a 10-second runoff.
You lose on a runoff.
Yeah, and I know, like, and it's funny because going on Twitter after that, also being a Lions fan.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of those.
We had that whole runoff situation happen.
Yeah.
And it was a little different than that.
Right.
But it was based on a defensive penalty, and they had to reset the ball and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of fans around here on social media have been bashing the league, talking about, oh, that was, we got screwed, this and that. Like, we got screwed because the refs cheated, this and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, no, they have this rule there for a reason, so that way teams don't intentionally try to force penalties they should have. Technically, it was an offensive penalty, so I mean, there's no excuse not to have a runoff there.
Right, absolutely, because at the end of the day, it was a false start on the offense. Like,
yeah, if it was a defensive penalty, they would still have an untimed
that was
down.
Different. Yeah, that would be different. That'd be an untimed down. They still have one more shot, make it happen. But it was on the offense. It's the offense's own fault. That's a mental error.
Yeah, that's a huge mental error. That's one that you don't want.
That literally cost you the game.
Yeah, literally did.
But you know what? There's another team that I feel like has a sundry of reasons of why they're have as many losses as they do, and that's looking at Memphis.
Yeah, talking about Memphis with the whole Johnny Manziel situation. So we looked at this. This was actually the Johnny Football Sweepstakes, you called it.
Yeah, the Johnny Football Sweepstakes. Come on down, because people didn't realize that the game between the Memphis Express and the Salt Lake Stallions was going to end up being for the rights to Johnny Football.
Yeah, and Salt Lake took care of business. Memphis's offense did not look good yet again. But Mettenberger got hurt this game, so Rivers came in to spell him, played the majority of the rest of the game. But yeah, they did not look good. You know
what would have been funny though? If we had found out, if either Memphis or Salt Lake had found out ahead of the game that San Antonio was going to pass on their rights, if we would have seen the very first true tanking of a game in the AAF for Johnny Manziel.
I hope that never becomes the case, that somebody tanks in the AAF. Oh, man.
Oh, that'd be horrible, especially with the 10-game season. But when you look at it, though,
I'd rather tank for Tua at that point.
Oh, that's not much better in my opinion. But the thing I look at, though, Memphis played extremely porous. They weren't able to really get a whole lot going. They were lucky to get 9 points, I feel like, which seems to be the thing. It's like if Memphis can get to 10 points, things can happen. If they don't hit 10 points, well, they're already down and out.
Yeah, and they can keep it close. They have a chance. But
yeah, but Salt Lake ended up taking care of business and ended up winning at home 22-9 to move to 2-4 on the season, and losing the Johnny Football Sweepstakes. But that's probably for the better.
Yeah, they're probably not too.
I wouldn't be upset.
Much caring about that, honestly.
I wouldn't be
yeah,
either.
it's probably not a big deal. But yeah, that game wasn't really as much of a noteworthy game as the San Antonio Commanders and Atlanta Legends that happened Sunday afternoon, actually earlier today. So I was watching part of this game. I was watching part of this game through the first half while the basketball games were going on, and San Antonio, I mean, I was surprised how well San Antonio played because they're very inconsistent.
Right.
They played lights out They scored on offense. They scored on defense. They scored on special teams. They had a pick six. They had a punt return for a touchdown, and their offense played really, really well. Aaron Murray looked pretty good. He had the pick six, but other than that, he still looked pretty good. He can move. He moves the ball down the field with Atlanta. So you got to wonder, what is their issue? Turnovers are their issue. Again, they had, I think, 3 or 4 turnovers this game.
And turnovers are always going to be a death dealer in these games, especially when you have games that can really come down the line. First things first, you should not be letting up a pick six. I'm sorry. I don't care who it is. I don't care if you're Tom Brady. There is no excuse for throwing a pick six, because at the end of the day, that is a whole entire swing of a game. That's a momentum shifter.
So, but Tom Brady gave up a pick six against Atlanta in the Super Bowl, and he still made that out just fine.
Yeah, but is Aaron Murray Tom Brady? I know they kind of rhyme and sound the same.
You were the one that started making that comparison and said that, so I'm just saying. I'm just asking.
Well, Tom Brady's one of the few that can actually probably come back from a pick six without any kind of issue. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be letting up pick sixes to begin with if you're playing nice, sound football, which the Atlanta Legends have not. Yes, they were able to get 2 wins. Pat yourselves on the back. Guess what? Now you have 4 losses.
Yeah, they still they've been such a weird anomaly to me that they played so awful in week 1, and then other than this game, the previous 2 weeks when Murray finally came in to start, they won both of those games back to back. So they've been really weird about how they approach each game. I don't really get it. But San Antonio, they're at 4-2. But you don't know what you're going to get out of them from week to week.
No, you really don't. And it seems, obviously, the loss they had against Orlando was a lot different. Orlando was able to really battle back, and they're both great teams. But it's just with San Antonio, they kind of go through these hot, cold spells, I feel like. Especially in game. They'll be really, really hot, and then they'll sit cold spells. Okay, our offense kind of sputtered out, and we'll see what happens. Oh, we let up a score. Okay, now let's get it going again, guys. And it seems like it's just one of those, hey, we kind of screwed up, and we're noticing it now. Okay, let's get it going again. But at the end of the day, though, they still lead the West. They are now 4-2. I don't think they're going to have much competition the rest of the way. San Diego, maybe, but Arizona. Obviously, Arizona got the big win against Orlando, and that's a huge momentum shifter. But I think that was more luck than anything. And I think that was more Orlando losing the game than it was Arizona winning the game.
See, I'm the other way. Because Arizona, we talked about how good their pass rush was in that game.
Right.
But Orlando's offense, they were the reason why Gilbert made some bad decisions. Why you can't really blame the drops on the defenders, but they played the way that we kind of expected them earlier in the season to play throughout the whole year. But I think they more so went out and won that game versus Orlando because they shot themselves in the foot so many times with bad drives. But I think they're still in the mix. I think it's going to be between them and San Antonio for the West.
It definitely could be, but definitely still don't count out San Diego. They put up a great showing against Birmingham, sadly falling just short, which did go final just recently.
Yeah, we had our breaking news at the beginning of the show about that game, and they were down, I think it was 26-9, was it?
Right, yes.
26-9, and they stormed all the way back and took a 3-point lead. It's 23-9, excuse me, because then they got to 26.
That's right.
They took a 26-23 lead. But yeah, so, they stormed all the way back. It seemed like what was a blink of an eye.
Especially against the Iron, who've been a strong team.
They've been a strong defensive team. Their offense is still awful.
Right, I should be more specific because you got Trent Richardson as your running back and no quarterback whatsoever.
Yeah, Louis Perez came in and played decently well, but he had, again, a couple of picks in this game. So they're going to have to – Birmingham's really got to find an identity on offense if they want to keep up with Orlando in any way, shape, or form.
Well, the thing I look at with Birmingham is I think they're trying to find that identity in a run game, but you're trying to put that run game on the shoulders of Trent Richardson, which I think is automatically a failing idea because not that Trent Richardson is a bad player, it's just he always ends up having some type of dumb mistake that shoots him in the foot and essentially shoots his team in the foot.
Well, he just doesn't seem to have great vision as a runner, which is what he was touted to have coming out of college.
That Nick Saban offense.
Which that spurned another conversation with you and I before the show about system running backs at Alabama and how well they've turned out. Not named Mark Henry.
Not named Mark Henry.
But or Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram, sorry.
I got Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram.
They're all the same people. They're Alabama running backs.
They're all Alabama running backs anyway. So Mark Henry. The wrestler Mark Henry. That's what I was talking about. The world's strongest man running through the holes. Yeah.
Hey, I'd give him a ball and let him run it.
Yeah, let him do it. But
just carry everybody with him on his back.
But yeah, like Birmingham, they try to run it with Trent Richardson, but I don't think he doesn't have that good of vision.
No, he really doesn't.
He's averaging, again, under 3 yards a carry in the AAF. Like if you want to be the guy, a stud running back to try to get back in the NFL, you cannot be getting under 3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
In a inferior league, you got to be running 6, 7, 8 yards a carry.
Yeah, you should be, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are. So
this is why they get signed to 3-year contracts, I think.
Non-guaranteed also.
Very true. But at the end of the day, though, Birmingham's going to have to get something going if they, like you said, if they want to be able to contend with Orlando and try to make a good push for the playoffs. But sadly, I think Birmingham has to find that identity, and I don't think it's going to be in Trent Richardson. And that's the one thing I think they're still going to try and hit that bell cow, but eventually that bell's going to break.
Yeah, he is leading the league with touchdown runs. He's got 9, I believe, now through tonight's game.
He's been their whole offense.
But yeah, he's been their whole goal line offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, they got to find an identity. They got to get some better quarterback play, some better offensive play in their passing game. But we'll see. A couple of weeks left in the AAF, so I'm ready to go back to the bounce house and see another Orlando Apollos game. But
definitely, and they still got 2 more home games left, so we'll definitely make sure to let everybody know the next time we'll be out there if you want to try and see the guys from Final Score. But one thing we definitely need to do is cut to commercial right now and pay that light bill yet again. So definitely make sure that you stay tuned with us. We'll be coming back with some great NFL news, including some big trades and free agency signings. So definitely make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3 Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3 Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit demoblaststudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score. I'm Chris, here with Craig, and we're going to talk a little NFL news. And man, I think we had the trade of the off season, which saw the one and only Odell Beckham Jr. get traded. Which I can't believe I'm even saying these words, and that's actually happening. Odell Beckham Jr. got traded from the New York Giants to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns.
Yeah, this is huge. This is huge in the NFL. Like, this rocked the whole NFL landscape. Everybody,
yes.
All athletes from all walks of sports, it just didn't matter. Everybody was just in shock that, first of all, not only would OBJ get traded from the Giants, who their GM Dave Gettleman had said at the combine, we didn't sign him just to trade him, which he turned around and did. But he got traded to the Browns of all teams.
Of all teams.
I think it was much bigger of a reason because he went to the Browns versus any other team in the league.
I'd have to honestly agree. And considering everything the Browns have been doing this offseason, it's just kind of a head scratcher. I know Jerry Jones came out and jokingly said that he was so happy that this trade went through because now the NFC East no longer has to deal with OBJ. But the thing I look at is that what are the Giants really doing in all this? Because this is killing me. And we're going to get more to that in a minute, but this is a brilliant move by Cleveland. Brilliant move.
Yeah, so they traded their first round pick, which would be number 17 in the first round this year, a third round pick, and safety Jabril Peppers, who was a first round pick a couple years ago. Actually, 2 years ago.
Sorry. 2 years ago.
2 years ago for the Cleveland Browns. And in exchange, Cleveland gets Odell Beckham Jr. So I think this is what the Giants wanted to do with OBJ all along, was to trade him to the highest bidder. And I actually just saw a report on Bleacher Report before the show that the 49ers had contacted the Giants about OBJ.
Oh, I heard about this.
And the Giants said, we want number 2 for OBJ. And they said, no, thank you.
Which honestly I think was the best move that they could have done.
I mean, from a football perspective, it's what do you want? Do you want to get a game-changing pass rusher, or do you want to try to improve your offense, which you could probably do anyway? And you probably would have had to give up. They probably would not have done a complete swap OBJ for 2.
No, definitely not.
But other stuff, you would have had to give up more picks involved. Like, I don't know if that's really worth it. Beckham is an amazing talent on the field.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
He's definitely an amazing talent on the field. So I do not doubt whatsoever. But I don't know about giving up that many picks just to get him if you are the 49ers.
Yes, definitely. I definitely wouldn't have. And I feel like with the 49ers situation, it's a lot different from what Cleveland's trying to do right now, because with Cleveland, you have a really young quarterback who definitely is a stud. You have all these little pieces you've been able to put in around him over the past season and then in this free agency period. So Cleveland, I feel like, is getting to, hey, we have talent. We can make it happen. Let's win now. Let's stop trying to play games and continue the heartbreak and have 1 win, no win seasons. Let's actually do something. And I think that started last year with a 7-8-1 record, and with the magic they literally were able to hit with Baker Mayfield. Because once you saw the change from Tyrod Taylor to Baker Mayfield, I thought that's where it really all started rolling.
Well, I think part of that is you got to give credit to GM John Dorsey.
Oh yes,
as soon as he came in, he built the Chiefs. He built the Chiefs into what they are, and decided he wanted to come to Cleveland, and he wanted to make them into a winner as well. So all the moves that he made kind of were leading up to this point. And if you are Cleveland, you are super ecstatic right now because you've got so many players that are still on their rookie deals. This is your window. This is your window to win right now, is while they're on their rookie deals.
If the Browns ever had a window, it is now.
Now it's right now, because you've got on that offense now, with all their other moves, you have Baker at QB, you've got OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway, all at receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end, you got David Njoku. And then at running back, you've got Nick Chubb. You've also got Kareem Hunt, who they are expecting you're not going to see him for the first half of the season anyway, because of his pending suspension.
Right.
And you've got Duke Johnson, who is he's a good third down, like spell back. He can catch out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. He's a very good player.
Good change of pace.
So all of that right there, that offense has got some firepower.
And who thought we'd be sitting here saying things like that? And what's crazy about it is that looking at what everybody else did in the AFC North, it's hard to count the Browns out as the early on favorites for that division.
I would say that based on their Vegas bookings and all that kind of stuff,
which their Super Bowl odds went from 25-1 to 14-1, much better than what Denver was able to pull off.
Yeah, right. Denver goes the opposite way.
Right.
But yeah, so as far as the AFC North is concerned, you've got the Browns obviously made the most splashes in free agency in the offseason.
Oh, most definitely.
Pittsburgh, they've kind of gone the opposite direction as far as losing their stars, but they still have a solid team.
They do have a solid team, but I feel like especially with how games were played last season and now you don't have a lot of those weapons, it's going to be a lot tougher to try and go against that same slate in the AFC North to try and win that division because, like we said, the Browns, they have just complete monsters on offense right now. And the defense isn't too bad itself, and they've been able to develop a little bit, especially through trade and free agency. But the thing that I look at is that when you start looking down the rest of the line, Cincinnati has really done nothing. They re-signed Tyler Eifert. That's been about the biggest thing they've done.
Cincinnati's going to be like a 4-win team this year.
Yeah, if that, honestly. But the thing, and then you turn around and look at Baltimore, which Baltimore did make some moves. I'll give them credit. They do have a good young. Have a good young quarterback. I'm getting so tongue-tied because I'm getting excited about the Browns. And the Baltimore Ravens are the only team that probably could realistically, I feel, contend with the Browns. But like you said, Pittsburgh still has a good core. They have a great offensive line. They have a pretty decently solid defense. It's just they don't have the big weapons on offense anymore. And my fear with Pittsburgh is your offense going to be able to keep your defense out of trouble? Are you going to be able to keep the pressure off your defense and not make it to where your defense has to win you games? Kind of like with what happened with Jacksonville. Because honestly, when Jacksonville made their run to the AFC title game not that long ago, it was mainly on the back of their defense, more so than it was on their offense. Because Blake Bortles can't pass himself out of a wet paper bag. But the thing I look at is that defense can win you championships, but you have to have an offense that can win you games. And that's the thing you have to look at. And I don't think Pittsburgh has that anymore.
Well, I mean, if you look at the production of James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster, yeah, Juju's going to be the number one receiver now. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to probably go in the draft and get another receiver. Or they picked up Dante Moncrief, which is
he'll be manageable.
He's been really good when he hasn't been asked to do a lot in an offense.
Right.
Which is when he was in Indy. He had a decent season where he didn't have to do a whole lot. He was just kind of there as a deep threat here and there. But Connor put up similar numbers to what Le'Veon Bell put up the previous year. Mm-hmm. So as long as you keep that line healthy, Big Ben's going to stay up then. Big Ben is going to pass for over 4,000 yards again. Mm-hmm. And I think the Steelers are still going to be the team to beat. But this race just got a lot tighter.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, and I did call it right after they got OBJ that Cleveland was going to win the AFC North. I'm not backing down from that. I will stick to my guns on that, but it'll be a lot tougher because I think Steelers are still going to be in contention. So are the Ravens. So it's going to be I think the winner of this division is going to be like 9-7.
Well, I'm still going to stick
10 wins maybe.
I'm still going to stick to last week's bold prediction before the OBJ trade, and I'm going to say that the Cleveland Browns are still going to win this division, even more so now. Because remember I said 10-6 or 11-5? I'm going to go 11-5 on this end, and I'm going to say that Cleveland Browns go 11-5, win the AFC North, and am I going to say it? They're going to win their first round playoff game. Boom!
What?
Calling it now. Browns are going to win the first round playoff game that they are in.
You know, we do have some of our followers are from the Cleveland area.
Oh, I'm sure they're jumping for joy right now then.
Oh, yeah. They're either going to love you or they're going to come back and use this against you.
You know what? They use it against me. That's fine. I've taken far worse. I have 4 children. So at the end of the day, though, Cleveland fans, this is your year. If you're going to make noise, let's make it happen. Get it out to the dog pound. Support your Browns because they're going to win the AFC North.
Yeah, I think, man, so that's you're going that far, huh?
I'm going that far.
They're going to win a playoff game, go 11-5.
They're going to go 11-5 and win a playoff game.
Okay.
Now, beyond that, it's anybody's guess. But I'm going to give them that because I feel they are too talented not to do that.
They still got to match up against the Chiefs and the Patriots. And
yeah, but then, the Chiefs and Patriots will probably have first-round buys, so,
That's true. That's true.
It'll be okay. I said they're making it through the first round. I didn't say they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that would be quite the bold prediction.
That'd be quite the bold prediction, and not one I feel comfortable making.
Yeah, but it's really exciting times in Cleveland right now. Everybody's excited. I don't think there's been this much excitement in Cleveland since LeBron won the Cavs NBA final.
Oh, well, I was going to go a lot further back and go more specific and say the last time the Browns were ever excited about anything is when Otto Graham won them an NFL championship. But
yeah, most of the people that either listen to our show and ourselves included were not alive. Our parents weren't even alive then.
I mean, they could have been glimmers in some eyes, but
my parents weren't even alive when Otto Graham was winning NFL championships.
It's okay, neither were mine.
Yeah.
But the thing I look at is that was the last time Cleveland was great. But hey, I guess the Cavs, did some things here and there, So did the Indians. They made a World Series run and then lost. But in
fantastic fashion. Being a secondary Cubs fan, I was so happy.
Secondary Cubs fan, listen to you. Well,
my roommate in college was a big Cubs fan, so of course I watched Cubs games, and I kind of was like an adopted Cubs fan.
Maybe I'm just too hardcore of a sports fan that I can't become like little side fans of teams. I'm just too ingrained.
Well, I mean, do you watch Tampa Bay, right? Do you watch the Bucks or the Jags or anybody?
I mean, I watch as a general fan of football and to see what happens because I'm too much of a fantasy football junkie. But
what I mean is, I will root for teams that I'm nearby. When it comes down to it, I am Detroit through and through. So that means you will obviously never find me rooting for the Cavaliers.
That's true.
The Suckeyes. I'm sorry, the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think you had a wrong enunciation.
I did. You will not see me ever root for Ohio State or usually any Cleveland team. The Browns are kind of the one, just because.
Well, we've had so much sadness for decades.
Being a Lions fan, we used to play Cleveland in the NFL championships in the 50s.
That's right.
So we used to actually both be good.
At one time, many years ago, in a land far, far away. But the thing I look at,
Star Wars?
Hey, it could be. But you know what? The thing I look at is I'm too hardcore. My approach is, when it comes to baseball, it's Red Sox and anybody who plays the Yankees. If it's football, you better be Fly Eagles Fly or, well, there really is no other alternative. I'm sorry. It's okay. You're a Detroit fan. You can cry. We have a Lombardi. You don't. But if you even want to switch over to basketball, Magic. That's my local team. But I don't really like anybody else. So
wait. Being an Eagles fan,
yes.
A Philly area fan, you're a Flyers fan.
Yes, I'm a Flyers fan.
Why are you not a Sixers fan?
So, funny story. When it comes to my family that lives close to Philadelphia, in Palmyra, New Jersey, if you guys know where that's at, we are diehard football fans there. Only football fans there. So that part of my family, it's all Eagles football, nothing else.
Right.
However, when you start going into other aspects of my family, no one watches basketball really at all. Whatsoever.
Yeah, because Philly doesn't care about baseball or basketball.
No, they don't care about either. Even though they somehow pulled off Bryce Harper, even though that's probably not going to work out for him because he's the only star on the team. But all that aside, the thing I look at is the fact that nobody in my family is really a basketball fan. It really comes down to football and baseball. Now, my dad's side of the family, they're all from Vermont. So guess what they are? Red Sox. Die hard.
Yikes.
So, I was really the only influences I had. So when it came to basketball, which I was introduced to at a very early age, it was magic, and more magic. And it was awesome, too, because, shortly after I started becoming a fan of the Magic at the wee old young age of in the early 90s, I got to enjoy Shaquille O'Neal for a little bit and then had my heart tragically ripped away. And then I so learned the plight of the Magic fan was that you're going to get good players and then they're going to get ripped right away from you.
So there's one thing that I've noticed about having lived in Philly myself.
Yes.
There are football fans in Philly and there are hockey fans in Philly.
Yes.
They don't mesh. You're either
not
one
usually.
or the other.
Not usually.
They hate each other. Like in Michigan, we're like you can be an all Detroit fan. In Philly, they hate other people so much. They hate humankind so much. They're like, no, you're either football or you're hockey. What about baseball and basketball? Nobody cares.
Even though the arenas are right next door. But the thing I look at is that I had the beautiful, beautiful luck of being raised in Florida. So at the end of the day, I didn't have to go through that, thankfully.
Yeah, lucky you.
Lucky me. I got to go to a place where everybody only cares about the Florida Gators and the Florida State Seminoles and the Miami Hurricanes, and listening to them talk about all their championships and all this. And then I say I'm a Notre Dame fan and I just get shut down. So,
yeah,
not that 11 national championships matter or anything.
All right.
But man, we went off on a tangent.
We did, but it's always a lot of fun when we do that.
It definitely is. But
it is.
I think we're going to be moving away now, though, onto our next segment.
Yeah, we were talking about free agency. So
yes, free agency.
We reported a lot of we tried to report as much as we could last week on our last episode, all the signings that were happening. And of course, with the first week of free agency, they call it free agent frenzy for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
All the deals. It seemed like they were coming in minute, every 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, like we mentioned last week, your phone was going off so much it wasn't even funny.
Yeah, my phone was going off so much even while I was at work, just trying to actually, do my job. But but it's work, it's whatever. But so week 1 is in the books.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about who got signed, and then we're going to talk about who's still available. So of the people that got signed, which of those signings stand out most to you?
Well, the first thing I'm really going to do is I'm going to pull up this big board real quick so people can take a look at it while we go down to part of this list. Biggest one, obviously, that jumps right off the front of the board is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell obviously had his whole entire holdout through the franchise tag issue and everything that he had in Pittsburgh. And then, going to Miami, being on the jet ski, dropping his dope rap album, all that kind of stuff. Ended up signing a 4-year, $52.5 million deal with the New York Jets, and feels extremely happy in the new contract he has. He's going to try to feel if he's going to fit in with his new team. But didn't Pittsburgh offer him more money than this?
So that's been the debate. I've been hearing, just listening to some of my favorite radio shows and talking about NFL subjects and all that. Le'Veon Bell had a better offer. They were saying that it was only $10 million guaranteed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, which that was just at signing. That's not all the guaranteed money he was offered. He actually would have made more in the long run had he signed that, stayed in Pittsburgh, played last year, because he wouldn't have been playing under the franchise tag at that point.
Right, you would have been actually under contract.
And he actually would have made, I think the ballpark number was, they were talking about this on Will Kane the other day. He ended up would have been $20 million ahead of where he's at right now. Had he actually taken that deal and not tried to say, pay me as a wide receiver and a running back. I'm going to create a new market. He's not even the highest paid running back in the league.
No, he's not.
So it's really interesting. For him, he thinks it's worth it to sit out, but he gave up a year of his prime. He's not going to get that year on the end of his career. I mean, ask Adrian Peterson. We were talking about this again before the show.
Right.
That he's not necessarily struggling, but he re-signed to the Redskins for like a $7 million deal for the second year in a row.
Which is fully guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is. It's fully guaranteed. But again, he's not. It's the big contracts don't line up. Like this contract extension for him as in Pittsburgh would have been his big contract.
It would have been.
That would have been his big contract because now he's going to be a free agent when he's like 31, I think 32 maybe. Yes. And running backs, your life is done.
Yes, you usually get a 10-year window as a running back anymore. And if you make it outside that 10 years, you're not usually getting picked up by anybody.
Yeah, you're not getting big contracts anymore. So the fact that he got this, it was 25.2 million guaranteed. But he still would have made more had he stayed in Pittsburgh and taken that money. Some of the arguments that he didn't want to be in Pittsburgh just because of how they treated him. No, it's not the case. It's not the Antonio Brown situation. He only cared about money and his status that came with that money.
And that's the big thing I see with all of it, is that it all came down to money, more money. Hey, let me get some more of that money. And that's the thing, is that obviously if you're willing to sit out a year, you don't care about records. You don't care about what you're able to do as a player. You're not able really to care about what you can do for your team because you're more worried about money. If you're willing to sit out for a team that brought you into this league, has tried to give you everything they can, and just say, screw you guys, I'm not going to play this year because I don't want to be franchise tagged again and I want a long-term deal. Honestly, it shows to me you only care about the money. And then you try and act like this deal you got with the New York Jets is this awesome deal and you got what you want and all this. No, you didn't. You're trying to say you are and try and put up the smoke screen, but you didn't. And at the end of the day, I think Bell has severely hurt himself because of the fact that, yeah, you might have sat out the year. You might feel fresh. You might feel good going into the season. I used to play football too. I sat out a season before. Yeah, sure, I felt great. But that was the year I lost. One more year of play I could have had.
Right.
And I lost it. And you can't get that kind of stuff back.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same side, but not to the extreme that you are with it. I don't blame players for trying to get as much money as they possibly can.
Well, definitely.
Because these owners are making money hand over fist most of the time, and how much the players are trying to get from them, which is why there's potentially going to be a lockout in 2020.
True.
That's another story we can have for another episode. But the players, I don't blame them for going to get as much money as possible. So I don't blame Le'Veon Bell for trying to go and get as much as he did or could have gotten. Mm-hmm. It's just the way that he went about it wasn't necessarily probably the smartest way to do it.
And I think maybe that's where my issue is, because I'm not against anybody getting paid. If you're a good player and you feel you're worth the money, go get your money, boo-boo. You deserved it. But at the end of the day, I feel like sitting out a whole season trying to basically get your team to tank because you were one of their star players. Obviously, Pittsburgh was very, very lucky with having James Conner and the type of output and production he was able to bring to the table and was more than able to fill that void. But imagine what happens if Pittsburgh doesn't have James Conner. Now you have no running game. You become a one-dimensional offense, and now you're losing a lot more games because defenses are going to key on that.
Yep.
So you think Le'Veon gave any care in the world about any of that? No.
Well, no, because remember the video of one of his teammates after Le'Veon abandoned the team, the player went in and took some of his sneakers and told him like, hey, I'm taking some of your sneakers. Le'Veon didn't care. So he caused a little bit of a rift in the locker room. But looking forward, if you're a Jets fan, you got to be pretty excited. You got Le'Veon Bell, you got C.J. Mosley. You're going to get a solid player at the number 3 pick.
Oh, most definitely. You also picked up Jamison Crowder as a nice little complimentary wide receiver.
Yep.
So, and I think the Jets honestly might take a little bit of a step forward this year.
Well, I mean, they could. So, I mean, this is kind of a little off topic, but Le'Veon Bell, his first year back, over or under 1,800 scrimmage yards.
Ooh, 1,800 scrimmage yards.
That's catching. That's catching and running. So receiving and running.
That's a tough one because you got to think you have Sam Darnold as your pivot, young quarterback going into his sophomore year. I don't think you can really have a sophomore slump given how porous the Jets were last year. But Sam Darnold did play pretty good at times and showed flashes of why he was drafted where he was.
Yeah, he torched the Lions week 1.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, after his very first pass was a pick.
Yeah.
Pick 6 too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was great for about 2 minutes.
For about 2 minutes, and then Matt Stafford showed why you're not a Detroit fan.
1,800 scrimmage yards over under.
But 1,800 scrimmage yards over under.
That's a tough one.
That is a real tough one, and I'm trying to think of how much rushing yards. I think he's going to end up somewhere between the neighborhood of 1,100 to $1,500 depending.
That's a big window.
It's a big window. It's because there's a lot of pieces still coming into place.
Yeah, but I was listening to one of the other around, I think it was around the NFL podcast, and they set the over under for his rushing yards at 1,250. Over or under?
I'll take the over on that all day.
The over?
I think I take the over on that.
Okay. So what about scrimmage yards? 1,800 over or under?
It's so hard.
So if you're taking the over on 1,200 rush yards,
it's not as easy because I really don't know how much Sam Darnold's going to end up going to Le'Veon Bell with the ball. But you know what?
That's only 500 yards receiving.
Yeah, but a lot can happen. We're talking about the Jets here. So honestly, at the end of the day, I'm going to take the over on this. I think he could achieve this and surpass it. But it's going to take Sam Darnold not having any kind of a sophomore slump.
I think he can do it. Sam Darnold is hopefully taking a step forward as they would expect him to. But, they put a couple of weapons around him. I think just Le'Veon Bell, he needs to have a snapback year.
Oh, he's going to need to. He's been gone all of last season.
But honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it's going to matter because like we're talking about, once his contract's up, he's probably not going to get another big one. So why does it matter? Now he got his money. What's the matter?
Because only like half of it's guaranteed.
Well, he still gets pretty good roster bonuses.
That he does.
Looking at his whole contract, he gets a signing bonus, $8 million right out the gate, and it's paid in 3 installments. He gets $4 million by the end of the month. He gets a $4 million roster bonus for this year already.
Yeah, he's definitely getting paid.
He's got I'm just looking at all of his little bonuses and salary and his base salary and all that.
Man, I mean, it's going to be good.
He's going to be fine.
I think Le'Veon can definitely make some noise, but the Jets are going to have to make a few more moves to really bring that team to where it needs to be. But we'll see. But there was another player who got really paid. Really paid. In the
same front office, really.
In the same front office. Just switch the sign around real quick, and we're going to talk about wide receiver Golden Tate signing his 4-year deal worth, I believe it was $37.5 million, and now becomes the top weapon, I feel like, for outside of Saquon Barkley, of course. Yeah. The top weapon for the New York Giants. What are the Giants doing?
Golden Tate signing with the Giants. This was a big head scratcher for me.
Yeah, I think you kind of overpaid for a guy that, not that he isn't good.
He's 30.
He's 30, which is the biggest thing you got to look at. He's an aging receiver. But on top of that, he just came out of Philly. He didn't really do a whole lot while he was in Philly. Spent most of his career in Detroit.
Well, he was struggling to find his role in the Philadelphia offense.
Yeah, because he honestly was only brought in kind of as a placeholder while Mike Wallace was injured, because Mike Wallace ended up going out with that injury that he had to his leg. But Golden Tate was able to make some things happen, got some touchdowns, got some yardage. But you're pretty much one little fish in this big old MetLife pond that's going to have to run around all over the place and try and catch these aging Eli Manning passes. I don't see it.
So you ask, what are they doing? And they're not, believe it or not, I've just been reading and paying attention to reports and things like that coming out of the front office. They're not pulling a Miami Dolphins and trying to tank. They're not. I think they wholeheartedly believe that they can still win football games this year.
Oh, that is so funny. Because you know what? I tried to say at first, well, maybe they're not. But you know what? They absolutely are. You know what? You might as well get the toilet paper ready, because this is a complete bottoming out of the Giants. They're completely crapping this season away, because really, you keeping Eli Manning at quarterback, that's just ridiculous. Eli Manning is done. He is washed up. He had his 2 Super Bowl MVP years or whatever it was, and you beat Tom Brady twice. He got 2. That's great. Guess what? That's old news too. So get out of the way. Let the young bucks come up and really show what they got, because all you're doing is sitting in a seat that you no longer deserve, and you need to move on, sir. Thank you.
So it's a really interesting take there.
It is. Well, the thing is that if you really are trying to make your team better, why are you hanging on to Eli? Eli has not been that great of a quarterback, honestly, throughout his entire career. He's never been a super stellar passer like his brother Peyton. He's never reached anywhere near the level of his Super Bowl rival Tom Brady. At the end of the day, Eli Manning is not even the best quarterback in his own division. So how can you try and sit here and tell me that at this point, 15 years after you've drafted him, that Eli Manning is still the guy that you want to give the ball to in any kind of a situation for the Giants? I just don't see it.
So what they're doing is they bringing in Golden Tate. He's not going to be a down the field threat. Sterling Shepard he's not necessarily down the field, but he could be. Evan Ingram is a guy that's going to have to step up. They actually have some weapons. They do. You still have Saquon. Golden Tate is still going to get 80 catches a year.
I think he might get more than that, given how this offense is going to run.
But Sterling Shepard needs to step up and play better.
Yes.
Evan Ingram is at tight end he's a very good prospect of a player.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could play a lot better. But it'll be really interesting. I think they're still going to make some more moves. Don't be surprised if they go out and get another receiver either in the draft or in whatever's left of free agency and bringing in guys to help kind of bolster that offense.
Well,
so
as you look down the line, too, there are a few receivers that are still in our top 101 that we have currently up right now, including Randall Cobb, Michael Crabtree, Kelvin Benjamin, which is just the big Oprah of the NFL. But
Crabtree, maybe.
I could see
that's
Crabtree.
The other two, definitely not.
No, I don't see the other two as well.
But I think what they think they can win some games again this year. I think they think they can do it. So don't be surprised. And now that they have 6 and 17, we're talking about reports that we've each seen that they might not go quarterback at all in the first round. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go quarterback at all and they give it one last. Because, okay, Eli Manning at the end of this weekend was due a roster bonus.
This is true.
He's still on the roster. He's getting his roster bonus tomorrow.
That's true.
Monday. So he's getting his roster bonus. So, I mean, you're committing to him for another year.
Which they did publicly do.
Yeah, and you knew they were going to try to get rid of OBJ somehow because they think he's a locker room issue. He's not part of the quote Giants way.
Right, which makes sense. But the thing I look at is that when are you going to finally decide to go and get the successor to Eli Manning?
Next year.
Well, the thing is, you're going to do it next year, and then what are you going to do? Because if Eli Manning doesn't come back next year, now you're throwing your brand new shiny Corvette out for everybody to scratch up and key up, and you might not have that great of a product down the line. Because I feel like right now the Giants really are not looking at the future. As much as people try to say, oh, they're tanking for the future, and they're trying to figure out the future.
Well,
I don't think they are, because if you were, you would have made these moves and got rid of Eli probably 2 seasons ago and really tried to do something.
What about when Arizona Cardinals draft Kyler Murray and Josh Rosen's available? I've seen reports of Josh Rosen being inquired about by New York.
I have as well.
Arizona has stood pat and said no, he's not available, but they're not saying that they're going to draft Kyler Murray either.
Well, we live in 2019. Smoke screens are a regular thing, I feel like, in the NFL. So with that, I could absolutely see the Giants trying to go get Josh Rosen, let him sit behind Eli for a year and tell him, listen, in 2020, you have the keys.
I think they're going to trade. So what's going to happen is this is a big if, Arizona goes and gets, if they go and they get Kyler Murray at number 1, the Giants are not going to draft a quarterback at 6. They might not even draft one at 17. They might just trade 17 back. They might trade 17 to the Cardinals for Josh Rosen. No. That's stupid. I'm sorry. I had to change my thought process here. You can undersell that, and you could even get rid of a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick to get Josh Rosen.
That's true. And that was the big thing I saw was that they feel the value for Josh Rosen currently is about a 2nd to 3rd round pick.
Yeah, so I could see them trading a 2nd or a 3rd round pick to Arizona to get Josh Rosen in return. So I honestly think that might be the move they do. If Arizona goes quarterback and get Kyler Murray and Josh Rosen is 100% available, the Giants will not draft a quarterback and go after Josh Rosen because they will think that is more of a New York Giants style guy, which he's really not.
He's really not. And that's the thing is that I kind of shake my head at everything the Giants have done in the offseason. They keep having to reassure their fan base and reassure everybody that, hey, listen, we have a plan in place. We really know what we're doing. Please trust us. And I feel like it's the same rhetoric they're going to keep repeating all the way through the offseason, all the way through preseason until they get into the season and realize, crap, we don't have a team. We have Saquon Barkley.
Well, if they go through that, they're wasting his best years at quarterback or at running back. By not having a quarterback, yeah, they're wasting his best years. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think they probably will make a play for Josh Rosen if he becomes available.
I think they definitely will too, and they're going to have to do something because I feel like you need to be getting the successor this year. Let him learn what he can from Eli, because it's not like Eli's a dumb quarterback. It's not like Eli hasn't been successful. It's just Eli's been in the league for 15 years. The guy is done. He is now washed up. So he needs to start grooming the next quarterback for that franchise and then move on and retire.
He's not going to want to groom anybody. Why would he want to be the guy to do that? That's the coaching staff's problem. That's not his problem as a player.
Because he's a veteran for that franchise, and if he has any kind of love or anything for that franchise, who decided to make the trade for him in that 2004 draft that sent him from the Chargers to the Giants, that he ended up going on and winning 2 Super Bowls for, and paid him all this money, I think he should.
Nah, you don't know him, Matt.
I mean, if he's anything like his brother, well, I don't know. Now that I think about it, Peyton didn't do it either because we still would have had Tim Tebow in Denver. But anyways.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But anyway, so the other big one we were talking about, we were going to have this as part of our Give or Go segment later on in the show, but
it kind of worked itself out.
Kind of works itself out. So Teddy Bridgewater initially signed with the Saints, then retracted his signing, and then met with the Dolphins, ultimately decided to go back to the Saints.
Yes.
What do you think about all that?
Well, the big thing I look at with it and the reports I saw is that he felt that being with the Saints, they made football fun. And I can understand that standpoint. You definitely want to enjoy what you do. Going to Miami would have been a huge mistake because I think we both agree at this point Miami actually is the team that is openly trying to tank for Tua for whatever reason. But, at the end of the day, you don't want to go to a sinking ship. You don't want to go somewhere where your stats are going to suffer, where you're trying to be a starter again and try and be successful to a team that's not trying to be successful this season, that obviously you are a short-term solution to a long-term problem. So it just didn't make sense all the way around. And maybe that was what Teddy was trying to figure out is Miami really trying to tank to try and get better for the following season? Or are they really trying to make an investment in me and maybe try to build around me so I can actually try and be successful again and maybe try and turn the Dolphins into something? And you didn't see that.
So he basically said he would have only gone to the Dolphins had they offered him, quote, life-changing money, which that is short for starting quarterback money, which is like $15 million a year.
Which he wasn't going
to get. So he decided to go back to the Saints for just over $7 million fully guaranteed, but with incentives could go up to $12 million. Basically means he's got to get on the field.
Right.
So he's at least going to get just over $7 million. But the reason we wanted to talk about this.
But it is fully guaranteed.
It is. But the reason I want to talk about this, part of the reason why he shied away and went and met with Miami is because of reports that Sean Payton, after this next season, so in 2020, he's a shoo-in to leave and go coach the Dallas Cowboys. That's the reason why he initially did not want to sign, or he retracted it and wanted to go to Miami to go meet with them at least.
Well, with that kind of idea, do you think there was something maybe said to Teddy that made him ultimately decide that, hey, Saints are where I want to be?
I think they convinced him to stay just because probably what Breeze said is like, dude, I'm 40 years old. This is a great place to be. You would be a great fit here. And because obviously he fell back in love with the game being there as a backup. You get to learn under Breeze for a year. Breeze is the actual kind of quarterback that you want into his aging years because he's actually going to
teach
someone something. So if I'm Teddy Bridgewater, stick it out and be there and learn under Drew Brees. hell yeah, it's going to take some years off your career from as far as how much you can make. But as far as just playing for the love of the game and playing for a community that will embrace you as a quarterback, there's your spot.
Well, that, and considering Teddy Bridgewater, kind of had a second lease on life after he came back from his brutal knee injury that he had. So to be able to come back from that and even still be playing, I'm sure Teddy Bridgewater is more than thankful to be doing. So maybe it just made sense. You're going to end up following up a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer. You're still learning from him. Like you said, he probably is a more prototypical guy that will actually teach somebody something.
Yeah.
And what's real funny, and this is just a nice little side note, is that all this came 13 years almost to the day when Drew Brees made his decision to not go to Miami and to go to New Orleans when leaving San Diego. So kind of interesting how all that worked out.
So yeah, I think part of the reason why he went and met with the Dolphins, but when he came back and wanted to actually sign for real with New Orleans, I think he knew that date, and that's why he signed on that date, because it was to the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was March 14th, exactly 10 years ago, 2009, that he signed. Drew Brees, that is, signed with the Saints. So I think he used that date to give it more meaning.
Right.
But I think he knew he was going to end up going back to the Saints. He just got cold feet and wanted to test the waters for starters' money, which
makes sense. And it makes sense. You want to try and test the water to see if there is greener pastures, but he ultimately ended up finding out that the greener pastures were just right at home. But other notable players that went and found some greener pastures were Earl Thomas and Mark Ingram, among many others that ended up signing with the Ravens. Look at the Ravens getting a haul.
Yeah, so I was kind of looking around where all those Ravens players had left and gone to, and looking at their roster and go, man, they really got decimated by free agency. But then they turn around and they get Earl Thomas, who's arguably probably the best safety of the class, even though he's coming off that injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get Mark Ingram, who's the running back they wanted all along. So funny story is that when they were talking about the last two places that Le'Veon Bell is going to sign, Jets and the Ravens, and all Ian Rappaport put that story out there on NFL Network, and everybody jumped on top like, oh man, the Ravens are in. The Ravens were never in.
They definitely weren't. He definitely got lied to.
His source lied to him. So basically, they wanted Mark Ingram all along, and he's going to be a good complement for Lamar Jackson. Earl Thomas now gets to take over as the leader of that defense. And in Baltimore, they love to have good leaders of the defense.
Especially at safety.
Ray, Ed, Terrell, those kind of guys. So he gets to follow along in that line. The only unfortunate thing is we never got to see T-Sizzle play with Earl Thomas on the same roster. That would have been really cool to see.
That would have been amazing.
But yeah, they both signed, and I think that'll help bolster Ravens' chances to compete in the AFC North. Because, in Cleveland, they got a few weapons now.
That's just a few.
Just a few.
Just a few.
So I think those were really good signings by the Ravens to help kind of shore up. And I don't think they'll be done. They have a lot of guys on their roster, though, they've just drafted in the last 2 or 3 years that they really love. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ravens defense take a slight step back on D, but I think they'll still be in that contention. They were the best defense in the league last year.
They definitely were, but I was losing some of those pieces like Terrell Suggs and stuff of that nature. It could help them step back, but who knows? The Ravens are pretty good at trying to reload on defense because they try to stick to that feeling they've always have every year. They have this nasty defense, trying to capture that magic of the Ray Lewis of old and those great defenses. And I think the Ravens are going to be able to do it, and I think they'll be able to contend. I just feel like the Browns are just a little bit better.
We'll have to find out, but so that'll be a good matchup, in the AFC North for the rest for this coming year. But so we're talking about the Dolphins met with Teddy Bridgewater, and then he decided not to go. But
smart idea.
They recently, actually, was this today? Correct? Was this today or yesterday?
This was yesterday, I believe.
Yesterday. The Dolphins do have a quarterback now.
Yeah, they do have a quarterback after trading.
So yeah, they made two moves. They traded Ryan Tannehill to the Tennessee Titans for, I think it was like a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah, they didn't get very much in return.
Something really low, like a 4th round pick. So the question was, for about 2 days, who is going to start week 1 for the Dolphins? Jake Rudock, who was the Iowa transferred to Michigan and played for Detroit for a couple of years on the practice squad. And Luke Falk out of Washington State. Played Washington State. He played behind, I think, Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years in practice squad for the Green Bay Packers. But basically, they had no quarterback to speak of.
Now Tannehill's gone. I think they lost Osweiler as well. So
he's a free agent. Yeah,
Osweiler's gone. So, they don't have anything in the cupboard. So they Dolphins were digging. Like you said, they met with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater turned him down. There was initial rumblings that they might try to make a move for Nick Foles, but they ended up finding out that Nick Foles and the Jags were already pretty much married in secret. So where do you turn to? Oh,
the Fitz Magic.
The Fitz Magic. And you go and sign former Buccaneers quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. And what's funny about this is going to be the third, not the second, but the third AFC East team that Ryan Fitzpatrick has started for.
Yeah. So this is great for him because we're talking about he's 34 years old.
Oh yeah,
you got to take work where you can get it.
Oh, and he'll take it anywhere.
I think he would. I think he would have been better suited had he stayed in Tampa.
Oh yeah.
But that brings up a separate topic that Jameis, it's shape up or ship out this year.
Right.
It's either sit or get off the pot, something like that.
Something like that. Something
it's
like
one of those phrases.
Something like go to the checkout line or steal the crab legs. I don't know.
Something like that. But so Fitzpatrick is going to be the week 1 starter for the Dolphins. I don't know. I don't know if they're still going to go potentially quarterback in the first round. It depends on who's there.
It's hard.
If the Giants don't go for quarterback, they trade up to get Haskins, or the Redskins do, or somebody.
Well, the thing I read in a recent report is that the Giants don't even want Haskins at this point. They're more interested in other possible prospects, including one that we'll talk about a little bit later. But the Dolphins, I feel maybe they feel like they can strike a little bit of magic with the Fitz Magic, which makes a little sense. I
think they're just trying to tread water because they're seriously. I think
they're tanking.
They might be trying to tank. Which is really a weird concept in the NFL. You don't ever want to think that anyone's tanking.
Oh, yes. Especially with
it's such a taboo thing in the NFL.
Well, you got to think. When you look at other sports like the NBA, you have over 80 games. Baseball, you have 100 plus, So it's a little bit different, I feel like, in other sports. Even in hockey, you're running, I think it's 60, 70 game schedules. Oh, excuse me.
Hockey's 82.
82. There it is. And you look at the NFL, though, you have a 16-game slate every year. You have 16 games to try and do everything that you can, and most of the time you're even still in contention late into the season. Yeah. So tanking is not something that you're traditionally ever going to see, but to see a team blatantly, it feels like, try and before the season even starts, take the approach that they're going to be tanking for the whole year to next year's draft to try and get a player or two, that's pretty mind-boggling to me.
Well, if you think about it, though, if they kept Tannehill, who would you rather take, Tannehill or Fitzpatrick?
Well, Fitzpatrick has a better beard.
That's a good way. Is that how you're going to pick your brackets in March this year?
I might.
You might. They got a better mascot. I like that.
They got a better mascot. I like their team colors.
So I would take Fitzpatrick over Tannehill, honestly.
Oh, yes. I think he's much more better.
I think he'd be better off. But
well, that and you look at what Fitzmagic did in Tampa Bay last year. I feel like I don't want to say necessarily earned himself a starting spot, but he definitely has garnered himself some serious consideration, one that obviously Tampa wasn't willing to do. So who knows? Maybe a little bit of Fitzmagic in Miami?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. See if they have another Miami miracle, but over the course of the whole season.
Oh, my goodness.
But they'll probably get a few wins. Yeah, they're going to finish at the bottom of that division.
I give them 5-11.
Everybody else got better, and they just stayed stagnant. So
maybe 6-10.
Maybe 6-10. I doubt it. It's really hard to lose 13 or 14 games in the league, though. It's really hard.
I mean, ask the Browns. They're masters at it.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
But all right. So anyway, the new big board that we've been showing you here has all the free agents that are still officially available. So out of those people that are available, who kind of jumps out at you?
Well, the biggest one I feel like at the top has to be Justin Houston. He's a great linebacker or edge rusher who ended up being released by the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm assuming more in a cap space room kind of thing. But he's a great player. Great defender. I'm kind of surprised he's still sitting here unsigned. He still has a lot of tread left on the tires, I feel like. But
well, he's 30 years old and he's had a little bit of injury concern, but he has been very productive over the last 2 years. So I am a little surprised with you that I'm so shocked that he's not signed, but he's going to be one of those guys that in the next week or two he'll get some interest and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a contender on a shorter, like maybe a 2-year deal.
I could see that
or something
too.
like that.
I could also see it with another player going through a similar situation as Ndamukong Suh. Now I know with Ndamukong Suh, he's had a lot. Oh, you only say that because you're a Detroit fan. Ndamukong Suh has had certain character issues. Let's call it.
He's also had effort issues.
He has had effort issues, but
which is why he's trash.
Being a part of a defense,
please don't hurt me.
That no F5s today. Ndamukong Suh was just part of a team that did make a Super Bowl run. Obviously, he didn't win that Super Bowl, but he did still play exceptionally well on a very loaded defense. Now, I wouldn't expect Ndamukong Suh to be able to slot into any defense and be able to make the same kind of stats and plays, just because I don't think you're going to find a defense that's quite to the level of what the Rams currently have. But I still think he could be an amazing contributor for just about any team in the NFL. But, again, the character issues. He's had issues where he's stomped quarterbacks in games, has made disparaging comments about other players. So it's really hard to kind of tell why he's still sitting here as a free agent. But I still feel like the pros outweigh the cons.
I'm on the opposite end. I know exactly why he's still.
Well, that's only because he spurned Detroit.
No, not even that. Not even that. So Suh, even on the 1-year deal in L.A. when he played there, he was brought in to help shore up the line. They knew they were going to try to get him just on that 1 year to try to get the most out of him. There were spots throughout the season where he looked like he was not playing hard at all. And I mean, he's already over 30 years old. It's been well documented that all he cares about is the money, the contract. He's not going to give you 100%, 110% effort anymore. He's not going to be a pass disruptor. He only had, I think, 4.5 sacks last year.
That's right.
In with the Rams. So he's not going to get you big numbers. He gives you half the effort, and he takes up double your cap space. That right there, add up that solution, that equation gives me why he's still on the board.
Well, the thing I look at, too, though, is that when you're on an extremely talented and loaded defense like what the Rams had last season, is it mainly he's taking plays off? Not saying he should take plays off, but maybe not giving as much effort because he knows he's on such a talented defense? Or is it just because of the fact that, well, I'm Ndamukong Suh, I'm taking a play off?
Ask the Miami Dolphins. They had to deal with him for how many years when he left. They gave him that mega contract, didn't live up to that contract.
That is very true.
That's why he's in the position he's in, where he had to do a 1-year deal with the Rams. Didn't know if he was going to try to do it to get another big deal this time around, or if it was just for the reason that it's there now. He's probably going to be a close to, in the preseason signing, to a team that needs, okay, we figured out we're pretty good here. We need to shore up a little bit on our defensive help and on the defensive line, and they'll take a flyer on him. He's only going to get, I think, 1-year deals from here on out, and I don't think he's got too many more left.
I could see him being signed a little bit sooner than that. I would say post-draft, once teams have been able to get a lot of their draftees in and kind of get an idea of what their roster is going to be made up of. But I do agree with you. I think from here on out, it's pretty much going to be 1-year deals. If you're lucky, your next one might be a 2-year, but I still feel the second year will probably end up being an option. So with that,
most likely.
Yeah, most likely. So with Ndamukong Suh, I still think he can definitely contribute to a team. Effort definitely can be an issue. But hey, you never know. Maybe when he was in Miami, he was just trying to help Miami in learning how to tank. You know what I mean? maybe that's what it was.
No, but he was counting his dollars and talking to Warren Buffett on how to get himself set up for his post NFL career, which I do not hate on that whatsoever.
Oh no, not at all. Especially with Warren Buffett.
Especially when you're best friends with Warren Buffett. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good friend to have. But no, I'd have to agree. Ndamukong Suh, he's going to end up landing somewhere, and it'll be before the season. But I think it'll definitely be post-draft once teams get an idea of what's going on. But maybe if teams are that worried, it could come closer to preseason given it could end up being an injury that happened, something like that. But looking further down this list, though, there are a few other notable names that kind of jump out as you look through, like Morris Claiborne, cornerback. Even Clay Matthews is out here. Kind of interesting.
Those guys, I think, age is most of the thing that's keeping them back. Clay Matthews, I think that's a big one for him. He's gonna be another one like Sue or like Morris Claiborne or even like Ziggy Ansah, who, even though Ziggy Ansah is much younger, he's got injury problems. So they're all those players are gonna go to teams that are probably close. They think they're on the cusp, or they might need to get a little bit of a push to get over the hump. Mm-hmm. And I think those are the types of teams that are going to be picking up players here in the coming weeks for free agency.
Another one that I'm kind of surprised that didn't get picked up quite yet, that I do kind of want to throw out there, is C.J. Anderson. Given the amount of great play he had at the end of the regular season last year for the Rams, and stepping in for Todd Gurley after he had gotten injured.
So how many weeks did he play this last year?
I think it was all of 3.
Okay.
And then playoffs.
But then why wasn't he signed before that?
Well, he played in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's got a couple of decent running backs, though.
That's true.
So, yeah, maybe you can...
Maybe it's an age thing with him, too, just because,
I think
C.J. Anderson's not the youngest one out there.
And he's a little bit larger than he used to be.
Yeah, you get a little rotund right through the midsection.
So, I mean, and he played phenomenally for the Rams last year in the short span that he played for them. But I think he's going to be another one of those types where it's a team that maybe is contending. Maybe he goes back to the Rams for another year. I don't know.
He might.
He very well could, which would be awesome for him. But I just don't think any team is going to line up to give him a multi-year deal when he was basically sitting as a free agent this last year.
That's true. That is
so
true.
I don't see him getting signed unless it's by a mid-season pickup by a team who's trying to contend, needs running back help. They need a goal line back. There you go. That's where C.J. Anderson goes. I don't see him getting signed until the season starts.
That can make sense. But one I see on here that's at the very end of the list, I don't think is going to go get signed at all this offseason or even into this next season, and that's quarterback Sam Bradford.
So I thought this was kind of funny. So they update this, the NFL.com, which is where we pulled our big board from, is they move it based on who gets released, and they slot people in. Like Eric Berry wasn't there right away. They slotted him in near the end after he got released. No matter how many changes they made, number 101 was always Sam Bradford.
I found that very funny.
Two guys got bumped off that list, but Sam Bradford stayed on. So they just put him at the end because he's a quarterback and he played at Oklahoma, and he's had so many
eons ago against Tim Tebow for a national title.
He's had chance after chance after chance after chance after chance.
How does he keep still getting chances?
He has glass shoulders.
He does.
So I think he's still going to get one more chance. I don't know where, but he's going to be a backup somewhere.
Oh, my goodness.
He'll probably be a backup for somebody who is hell, Miami would be dumb enough to go sign him.
You know what's sad is I bet you they'll have Sam Bradford back up Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I'm going to call it now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but we'll see. Usually this beginning part of the week, you'll see another ramp up of the next tier of guys go, and then it kind of quiets down a little bit until the draft and after that. Right. So we'll be looking forward to see what happens in free agency over the next few weeks.
We definitely will, but we're definitely going to shift gears a little bit and look at some other things that happened around the NFL and other NFL-related news. And one of those big ones was we had a little bit of a pro day recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Kyler Murray had his pro day in Norman just earlier this past week.
For Oklahoma. Make sure I get that right this week.
Yeah, Oklahoma. Yep.
Oklahoma.
I can't remember who you said last time.
Ohio State.
Maybe
I was just trying to make you upset. I'm not sure.
You probably were. You're just trying to probably get.
I've been throwing around all my Notre Dame gear around you today just because of the amount of green that's being worn.
But I don't get it. I don't even.
It's okay. But Kyler Murray had his pro day in Norman, Oklahoma, as part of the Oklahoma Pro Day. All teams were present for this pro day, with the exception of Arizona. which maybe
I think that's really telling.
I think it is very telling.
I think it's very telling that Arizona's going to draft him at 1. So why do they even need to be there?
I think that's pretty much what happened. Is that they said, "Oh, we know what we're doing. We were in the power seat, so why not?" But he threw in some position drills. He didn't measure his height. I thought that was kind of
didn't run the
interesting.
40 either.
He didn't run the 40 as well. But are those things you think are going to hurt him in the long run?
It's not going to matter because I think Arizona's the only team that matters right now. And I was listening to a segment about this for what his response was about not running the 40 and not doing these things. And he goes, "Well, the tape, the tape speaks for itself as far as how fast I am."
Right.
So basically he just goes, the tape speaks of how fast I am. I don't feel like I need to do it. But then the question goes, all right, well, we've seen the tape on you throw. Why are you throwing position drills? Why are you doing this at all?
That's the thing I'm looking at.
Because why does this even matter? Like, I love how he tried to push back and go, why does that matter? Like, the tape shows how fast I am. Like you guys
then why do any of it?
Then why'd you go through any of this stuff?
Thing is, he could have easily just done it at the combine and just been done with it.
I know, and I think that's where they're very strategic on this with the top prospects. They don't go through the combine stuff because it's unfamiliar territory and it's a bunch of players you've never played with before.
True.
But that's the point, is you're going to get thrown in situations you don't know.
That's the
what
NFL.
to do. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I have a whole little soapbox of why pro days are the dumbest thing for most prospects.
Oh, most definitely.
That's what the combine is for.
If you're a smaller prospect who doesn't get invited to the combine and you're going to end up being like, the third, fourth, fifth, and so on round picks,
that's fine.
that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you're a guy who's projected by a lot of prognosticators to go number 1 in the draft, then why even bother?
Even for another one that Michigan had their pro day this last week, and Rashawn Gary didn't do anything.
Yeah,
he sat back and he's like, he self-proclaimed himself to be the best player in the draft, offense or defense, which I laughed at.
Oh, I think most were laughing at that.
Like, I laughed at that. Being a Michigan fan, I thought that was the dumbest thing he could have done.
Oh yeah,
he could have said. I get him not running the 40. He ran a really fast 40 at the combine.
Oh yes, most definitely.
But he didn't do any position drills, didn't do anything else whatsoever. So what was the point of you even being there at the pro day? Why would you even meet with the media if you think that you are gonna be the top, in the top 5, top 10? What the hell are you doing this for?
I kind of hope he gets invited to the draft just so we can watch him sit in the green room and just twiddle his thumbs.
He won't. He'll make it. He'll be in the top 10. He's gonna get drafted.
We'll see.
He'll get drafted based on potential, and I swear to God, Detroit, if you draft him, please do not let me sit through more years of watching Rashawn Gary underperform. Please don't let me have to do that.
Oh man. Well, to look back at Kyler Murray, though, there was one interesting thing that did happen at his pro day, and that was the fact that he did meet with the Giants one-on-one.
Do the Giants trade 6 and 17 to go up to number 1?
Woo, they trade 6 and 17 to go to number 1.
That's what it would take.
The winner in that will be Arizona, because if you're giving up that much draft capital just for Kyler Murray, man. You know what? Honestly, I hope they do it, just because the Giants will suck.
And you still got Josh Rosen.
Oh, my god.
And you get 2 more assets to put around him?
Yep.
Man.
That you might have had already. That you might have been able to draft no matter what. But,
exactly.
You sure the Giants aren't trying to tank?
If they trade up, I swear, if they trade up for 6 and 17 to go to number 1, that would be the most that'd be a very Cleveland Browns thing of them to do.
Would the Giants please say the Giants would become the new Cleveland Browns.
I think they would.
Oh, I would love every moment.
Or that would also be a very New York Jets thing to do, which is funny.
I would take that equally.
Yeah, I think that'd be hilarious. But yeah, they did meet with him, so I thought that was kind of curious because Arizona, I think they're going to draft him, and everyone thinks they're going to draft.
Right, I think they're pretty
Kyler
much the odds-on favorite to take him at this point, which it makes total sense after everything with Rosen. But one thing that wasn't quite as funny was the fact that Kareem Hunt was finally handed down a suspension.
Yeah, he finally got a suspension. We knew this was going to happen. He got 8 games. So he got 6 games for the video incident.
Right, against the woman in that
February.
Right.
In the Cleveland hotel that happened. So he got 6 games for that. Plus he got 2 games because he had 2 other altercations in nightclubs and strip clubs.
Can we just keep these players out of these places? You know, like I know you got money and I know you're young, but I mean, if funny enough, the New York Giants taught us anything, don't let your players go do that. You end up with bullet hole wounds and
I was gonna say, ask Plaxico Burress on that.
Yeah, ask Plaxico Burress. It just doesn't work out. So 8 games total, but the big thing I look at too is that he is not appealing the suspension whatsoever.
Nope, he's going to do his time. He's already released a statement to the NFL and basically apologizing and knowing that he's an idiot. He did things wrong. He's owning up to it,
which is good.
Yeah, I don't think this solves the problem from a grand perspective. You ask how can the NFL relieve this kind of issue for their players?
Stop throwing money at 20-year-old kids?
No, if this does happen, suspend them for a year with no appeal.
Ooh, that would be.
You want to get rid of the Greg Hardys. You want to get rid of those, all that, the domestic violence, the Ray Rice incidents, the Kareem Hunt incidents.
Well, that you look at the whole timeline of how all this went down when the news first broke. Chiefs said, "Oh, you did what? Bye, you're gone." And for a franchise that is really at the top of their division and making runs in the playoffs, to just up and drop one of their star players, I think that's very, very telling to the kind of stance that these teams are taking, which they should be taking.
Some of them, yes.
But some of them, yes.
But the league, this tells me the league passing out suspension. Oh, hey, it's still slap on the wrist. That's it. I mean, even 8 games.
That's still half the season.
What if he appeals it? If he did appeal it, it's going to get knocked down to 4 or 5.
Well, and then you're not guaranteed. But the thing I look at either way,
I mean,
it would get him playing this season. Well, if history is any indication, especially with the Ezekiel Elliott issue, it more than likely would have been reduced, probably to 4 or 6 games. But either way, though, I'm just glad Kareem Hunt is just taking this one on the chin, because I feel that this is a not necessarily a loophole, but something they need to kind of close the end of, is that when you have players appeal, 9 times out of 10, these appeals are these game suspensions are getting reduced.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're kind of doing a disservice to the whole point of what you're trying to do.
Because the NFL does not have harsh enough penalties for these things.
No, they really don't.
But for Kareem Hunt, he knows he did wrong.
Yes.
He is, like you said, he's taking one on the chin. He is owning up to it. I hope that he, actually does go through his process, does the due diligence, and this doesn't happen to him again.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's another player that got into some trouble later, but I hope some of these players do actually own up and just have a good head on your shoulders. That's all that really matters. You keep your nose clean in the NFL, you'll be fine.
Well, the thing I look at is that with a lot of these players, these are 20-something-year-old kids you are just straight up throwing millions of dollars at. So a lot of them end up in bad situations or think themselves to be a lot higher and holier than thou than they really are, just because they are in a position of popularity and fame and now and being basically rich. So, I can kind of see how this could happen. However, they don't have a viable way to deal with it other than slapping them on the wrist, giving them suspensions, fining them, which people don't necessarily learn from. Because think about it. You go and you speed down the road, you get a ticket. That doesn't really teach you anything. You're just like, oh, crap, now I got to pay this money. 3 weeks from now, you're not even going to be thinking about it.
Right.
So, it's kind of the same thing when you look at this. These are just slaps on the wrist. But Kareem Hunt is one of the first players I've seen really just kind of just take it on the chin. And this is a big suspension. It's half the season. But at the end of the day, I still feel it's not really taking care of the issue.
Yeah, it's definitely not. They need to readdress this at like the owners' meetings and league meetings and things like
agreed.
that with the talks with the NFLPA. But these things are going to continue to come up. So there's really until they come up with harsher penalties, these are going to continue to pop up.
Very sadly, but one thing that I think is a little bit more heartbreaking and not something anybody could have controlled was there was combine tests that revealed that defensive lineman from Mississippi State, Montez Sweat, who broke our defensive lineman 40-time record, actually has a heart condition of some type.
Yeah, so the report on this is that he had an extra look from doctors at the combine after concerns about a pre-existing heart condition. They apparently deemed it to be low risk, and they allowed him to participate. But some other players in the past have been diagnosed with heart conditions and had been held out. They had actually held out a player this year's combine from heart conditions as well. The one, he was medically cleared to participate for the senior day and the senior bowl in the NFL combine. But the other player that pops out in my mind that this happened to and his draft stock dropped severely was Mo Hurst, out of Michigan last year when he got drafted in the 3rd round by Oakland.
Yeah, I remember that. Condition. I definitely do remember that, and that ended up affecting him a lot. But I really do hope Montez Sweat.
5th round he dropped.
5th round. I really hope Montez Sweat can bounce back from this. After he ran his 40 time and put out that great combine showing, a lot of people projected him to be a first rounder, like hardcore first rounder, top of the half first round. But now with something like this, a lot of teams are going to be very, very cautious. They're going to, you could really see him fall because teams now are going to be worried. Like, is this kind of guy that's actually ever going to play? So,
Mo Hurst, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're okay.
Mo Hurst had his heart condition, dropped to the 5th round, was also considered a first round talent. He played, he started in 10 of the 13 games this year for Oakland. So I think he'll still Sweat will get drafted in the 1st round. I think he'll drop a little bit from 8. Unless Tampa Bay really likes him that much that they want to draft him.
I sadly see him falling a little bit from this, and not even just from 8, but I think he might fall out of the 1st round completely. However, so? I think he could, just because when it comes to these kinds of things, these could be career enders. So I could see him not being drafted at all in the 1st round, but I could see him going in the 2nd round, maybe falling to there where a team might want to take a little bit more of a safer bet on him. But
maybe
it's really hard to tell because with these things, you really never know until you get into those situations because you never know. You put Montez Sweat on the field and then something could happen. But then again, Montez Sweat might play his entire career and nothing will happen. So it's just really hard to tell how this will work out.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep updated on how that goes and what other news may come out of that for Montez Sweat leading up to the draft. But with the beginning of careers comes the end of NFL careers.
That's right.
I know we want to talk about a very specific and surprising retirement was Saints center Max Unger decided this weekend that he is retiring from the NFL.
Yes, he's a 10-year vet, 3-time Pro Bowler, was most notable for his run with Seattle, was there for a number of years, 6 or 7, I believe, and it's just really surprising, especially considering how deep of a run the Saints made this past season, making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, which we know how that one ended. But it's surprising that seeing how the Saints are kind of re-gearing to make another run at the Super Bowl, that he would just up and retire. Usually linemen have a much better longevity in the NFL than most positions, just because you don't have the quite as much of momentous impact from running players that are just headhunting you. So as an offensive lineman, typically you can last 12, 15 years easy as long as you take care of yourself. And Max Unger was one of those guys. So for him just to up and retire as the anchor of that offensive line and the snapper for Drew Brees, it's going to be a huge void for the Saints to fill. And I was reading through and saw they do have a center guard that's a 2-year player and another center guard that's a 3-year player that could step in possibly to replace him. However, they are nowhere near the talent level of what Max Unger was able to bring to the table. And there's not a lot of interior linemen still available on the free agent market. So the Saints now are going to have to look on how they're going to have to fill this void. Do you do it through the draft? Do you try and just slide in one of those other 2 players that you have that could do it? It's really hard to tell. Hopefully, though, they can find something, or they're going to have a little bit of problem right there at the center of that line.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints, it seems like every year they have some hole to fill on the offensive line to help keep Drew Brees upright. Mm-hmm. So from their side, yes, this is definitely a very very crushing blow for their. Not only is he probably, I imagine he was probably very well respected in the locker room.
Oh, very well respected.
So that'll be interesting from the Saints side. From the players side, I'm glad to see players that can leave on their own terms.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, Max Unger, hopefully he's he's all in good health, as it were. Some players have to retire because of injury. Others retire because of concussions and CTE. So I'm happy to see that he is actually able to retire on his own accord.
I definitely am too, and it is nice to see that, but it definitely has to be heartbreaking for the Saints just because Unger very quickly became, like you said, he was a very big staple, not only in the locker room but in the community and for those fans. So to see him walk away just literally out of nowhere, it feels like it has to be devastating. But I still think the Saints, being the great organization that they are, they're going to be able to find a way to replace him in some manner, or at least have something that'll be able to help them make a push back into playoffs. But man, that's a lot of NFL news we had to just do today.
Lots of NFL news.
Lots of NFL news. That's what happens when you get into the new calendar year for the NFL. You end up having all these crazy things that happen with the trades and free agency. Just so much that happens.
Yeah, that's the one thing I love about sports is that it's very cyclical because like every spring, it's NFL. It's all football.
Oh, yeah.
And then college basketball. And then you got the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs. And then you got the draft.
And we're adding a whole other wrinkle this year, too, because of the AAF on top of it.
The AAF and all that. And then once you get into fall, well, it's football. And then basketball starts. Everything starts back up. It just goes back all over again. So it's always fantastic.
It definitely is. But one thing you did mention in all of that is the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA. And
getting them the last week of the season right around.
That we are. We're getting right down to the wire. Most teams have played about, what are we at now? About 70 or so games, so a little over in some cases. So we're getting to the point there. Teams are getting eliminated. Some teams are locking up positions. Looking at the standings right now in the Eastern Conference, the top three spots have all at least been locked up. So we have three teams that will be in the playoffs with the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors, and the Philadelphia 76ers. So definitely awesome there. Still got a few more spots to deal with there, including some bubble teams that are trying to make a final push. But what do you like when you look at these standings?
Well, really, it's all about jockeying for position here with 4 and 5 in Indiana, Boston. Detroit has played out of their minds the last 2 weeks, 7-3 in their last 10. Brooklyn has really cooled off and lost 3 straight. So they're sitting right at 500, 36 and 36. Pistons are 3 games over 500. So basically they're kind of fighting just for that six spot there. The Magic still have an outside chance to get in.
That's right. We are only 1 game back of that 8th position. And we've won our last 2 games, so who knows? But we still are only 5-5 our last 10, so it does make me kind of worry about our consistency issues. But we're sitting at 33 and 38, not the most beautiful mark, but still only 1 game back of the Miami Heat for that 8th spot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I really don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, though. I think Miami's played really well lately. Brooklyn, unless they really fall off in the next 10 games, there's a possibility they could fall out of the playoff hunt too. But
here's hoping.
I think basically how it sets up now, 1 through 8, Milwaukee, Toronto, Philly, Indy, Boston, Detroit, Brooklyn, Miami. I think that's probably how it's going to end up for the year. Mm-hmm. But Orlando could definitely slip in there and take over either Brooklyn or Miami spot.
Well, another thing, too, you got to look even a little bit further down. You still have the Charlotte Hornets there, too, that are only sitting 2 games back at that 8th spot. Now, given the fact that they've been 3-7 in their last 10, it doesn't bode very well for them, and I don't expect them to get in. But it's one you still have to take a look at once we get down to the wire here, because like we've learned in the past, anything can happen.
Anything can happen, especially in the last 2 weeks or so of the NBA season. Mm-hmm. But in the Western Conference, looking at only 1 team has been actually officially locked up, and that's the Golden State Warriors. That just goes to show you how much of a logjam there is in the Western Conference, 1 through 8.
You know what's funny is that when I'm looking at these standings, I look at the Eastern Conference, and you looked at it from 1 to 5. The 5th seed, which is currently the Boston Celtics, is 9 games back. But when you look at the top 8 for the Western Conference, the 8th seed is only 7.5 games back. So that's pretty telling to show you that the West really is just so close year in and year out, just because I feel like they have the talent dominance a little bit here.
A little bit. And then you look at Boston is sitting at that 5 seed. They're at 43 wins, and that's the number 5 team in the East. And then number 6 is Detroit at 36. It's kind of a drop off there. In the West, all 8 teams have 40 wins or more in the NBA. And then Sacramento sitting at 9 with 34 wins. So that field is pretty much set. Now it's all about jockeying for position.
Right.
Who's going to get the top seed? Denver's still not out of getting the top seed. They're 1 game back of getting that number 1 seed.
That, and they're on a 3-game winning streak and are 6-4 the last 10. They've been playing really good basketball. So I'm really interested to see. And the big thing, too, for Denver is that they've been playing great at home. They're 30-6 at home. So I really could see Denver making that push, but I still feel Golden State's way too powerful to give up that top spot.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, especially these last 2 weeks. This is really fun to watch. We were just watching the Houston and Minnesota game that just wrapped up not too long ago. Houston taking that game. But yeah, this is going to be a really fun playoffs to watch if you're a basketball fan. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. They'll be getting started in probably about I'd say about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, roughly.
And then they'll get started.
Yeah, and we'll get everything rolling, and we'll definitely bring you some awesome coverage for going into the playoffs for the NBA. It's going to be really awesome. But as we start to wind down, we have one more segment we need to touch on.
Whew. You need a break?
Oh, I'm getting there, man.
This is the longest show we've ever done.
I think it might be.
It's the longest show we've ever done. I can just tell. But we're going to do a little give or go.
That's right. Give or go time.
So, give or go. First subject. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson has an Instagram video of him doing 105 miles an hour. Give or go.
I'm definitely going to go on this because how many different people in the NFL or even in sports in general have been caught and pulled over doing crazy things at max speed? You know, this is nothing to me at this point.
As long as he stays safe.
As long as he stays safe. He didn't die. He didn't hurt anybody.
Didn't go Ben Roethlisberger.
And he didn't pass out in the vehicle like Michael Floyd did. So at the end of the day, he's doing something right. So the Jazz banned 2 fans permanently from their arena, and Westbrook was fined $25,000 by the NBA from an altercation that happened while the Oklahoma City Thunder were visiting the Utah Jazz. Give or go?
Give on this one, and a big give.
Alrighty.
This has been a huge issue. Not really like huge issue, but it's been a very well documented issue over the last year or so, specifically in Utah.
Right.
With their fans, where basically we shared this story on our social media, on our Twitter and Facebook when this happened last week, and we wanted to bring it up in this segment, in this show, at some way, shape, or form. And basically what happened was the Jazz fan in question, one of them, another one was from last year, was banned after the fact. But one fan and his wife were basically slinging racial slurs at Russell Westbrook during the game was going on. And basically Russell went to stand up for himself.
Right.
He spouted back a little bit and basically told them he was going to, kick their asses and all this kind of stuff. But the fan continued on, and the fine from Westbrook came because he basically engaged with the fan, which I thought was pretty dumb of the NBA to fine him for that. And then I really loved how the ownership of the Jazz stepped up, banned that fan from all events there, and then also had a statement at the next game talking about it. They banned another fan from a previous incident, again with Westbrook.
Yeah, and that fan called Westbrook boy.
Yes, very. I just don't get it. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're in 2019.
Right.
I don't care if you're an athlete or not. Nobody should have to go through this kind of racially charged ridicule It just there's no place for it, especially in a sporting event where people want to go to enjoy themselves, have fun, watch the sport that they played or love or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. This crap does not belong in sports whatsoever. Good on the Jazz for banning this piece of crap from all of their events. And I hope that more sports teams and organizations take note and follow suit.
Hopefully.
But next one. The Denver Broncos' John Elway says in the introductory press conference for Joe Flacco that he is, quote, just going into his prime, end quote, at 34 years old. Give or go?
This is a go. Flacco is 34 years old. You got a Super Bowl ring because of Ray Lewis and that amazing Ravens defense, which we had talked about the Ravens and their defenses earlier. So, Elway, you need to calm down, put down the scotch, son, and join us in 2019. So, Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill's under investigation for a battery incident that happened at his home. Give or go?
Go. Just for the fact that in this investigation, he was not specifically named. His fiance is the one that this report is filed under. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this will not involve him in this battery investigation. But if it is, then we would have to readdress it at that time.
Oh, definitely.
So hopefully it's not just involving him, but this is the same girlfriend that he was involved with when he got kicked off the team for getting convicted of his domestic assault at Oklahoma State. Last one of the night, Kyle Busch ties Petty's record with 200 career wins.
What?
On the circuit. Give or go?
What? No, this is a go.
I'm literally writing. I'm reading what's written.
I really would give to this, but I don't like Kyle Busch, so this is going to be a go. But I'm going to give you a quick recap as to why. Kyle Busch, you are garbage. You are nothing but a selfish, little self-centered prick, and I don't enjoy you at all. I enjoy your brother a lot more. Kurt Busch is nice, but you're just garbage. Your 200 wins, guess what? That can't be over one series. That's over 3 series. That's the Cup Series. That's your Xfinity Series. That's your former Craftsman Truck Series. Now the Camping World Series. You are 200 wins. You can't hold a candle to the king himself, Richard Petty. 200 wins. Wait, how about this one? When's the last time you won a Cup title? Exactly. I hear crickets. That's a go.
I've never even heard of some of those series, so I'll just take your word for it.
Point exactly. Welcome to NASCAR.
Wait, do they still do the what's the Marlboro series? Do they still do that?
Oh, you mean the Winston Cup Series?
The Winston Cup Series.
That ended up becoming the Nextel Series. That became the Sprint Cup Series. That's now the Monster Energy World Cup Series.
Okay.
Welcome to NASCAR. So it was our Give or Go segment. Definitely make sure that you check back next week when we bring up some more topics to give or go on. And sadly, though, we're getting to the end of our show here. And,
this has been a long one.
Yeah, and we're gonna give a quick look at the week ahead. I know we have obviously we're getting past the NCAA conference championship.
Final thoughts. 2 words.
What is it?
3 words. Actually.
Okay, now you gotta correct yourself.
3 words.
3 words.
March Madness. Enjoy.
Had to throw it on there, and you definitely should. And definitely make sure that you go and enjoy everything that's Final Score by going on over to our social media outlets on Facebook at /PCN Final Score, on Twitter at PCN Final Score, and of course, go on to Podbean. Check out all of our awesome episodes that are up for download. All you have to do is go on to podbean.com, search keyword Final Score, and of course, podcastcity.net /Final Score. Definitely make sure you go and check us out. Craig, thank you so much for joining us yet again.
A lot of fun. Can't wait to report on all the comings and goings of the NCAA tournament next week.
It's going to be exciting, and I hope all of you have had a very safe and awesome St. Patrick's Day holiday. Until next time, this is Chris with Craig as part of Podcast City Network's first sportscast Final Score. You have yourself a great night.
Podcast City Network.